Immortal Cultivation begins with gaining a superhuman constitution. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76 Thermal Vision. Ding. 1,509 energy points spent. Extraction successful. Obtained Superman Constitution Fragment. Achieved 4th Order Black Iron Body. 8 times the light energy enhancement rate. Double defense. Obtained new ability. Heat Vision. A warm current emerged from the body, constantly transforming Su Poman's body. This warm current was like the first spring breeze after winter, blowing through every inch of his body. Extremely comfortable. Purple Source Roulette. Name: Su Poman. Realm: First Grade Grandmaster Warrior. Bloodline: 4th Order Black Iron Body. Abilities: Light Energy Enhancement, 8, Supervision, Super Hearing, Bioforce Field, Heat Vision. Energy Points: 0, minimum 10 energy points required for a single draw. Available number: 0, click to draw. Current draw target: Bronze Superman 2.68 per mil. Heat Vision: the eyes can fire high-energy laser beams. The temperature and destructive power gradually increase with the energy output. Each discharge requires a 15-second cooldown before re-release. The energy is derived from the stored solar energy within the body. The cooldown period decreases as physical strength increases. Su Poman reveled in the transformations of the warm current. Not only did his defense double, his physical strength rivaling that of a 9th-level key refining cultivator, but the thickness of his biofield also increased from 2 inches to 3 inches, nearly 10 centimeters thick, giving him a sense of security. With a single thought, he could control the biofield to disappear or thicken in a specific area of his body. The missing biofield would evenly spread across the rest of the body, while the thickened biofield would thin out the remaining areas. This meant that Su Poman could rapidly enhance his frontal defense based on the direction of the incoming attack. What excited him most was his newly acquired ability, Heat Vision. With this, if he encountered a cultivator with malicious intent, he wouldn't have to deplete their spiritual energy to kill them. Furthermore, this ability was incredibly difficult to defend against. In the middle of a fight, who could imagine that their eyes could kill? Unlike mage cultivators, who needed to chant incantations or activate talismans, simply glaring with his eyes instantly unleashed high-energy laser beams, reminiscent of a nascent soul cultivator capable of instantaneous spellcasting. A red light gradually flickered in the depths of Su Poman's eyes, radiating from within, gradually growing redder and brighter, like 2 red-hot irons. The next second, 2 red beams emanated from them, sweeping across the trunk of the nearby demonic locust tree. Swish! The laser beam sliced through the towering locust tree, its trunk severing in half. The cut was charred black and billowing with smoke. Immediately afterwards, the severed upper half of the demonic locust tree toppled to the ground with a crashing sound. What power! So strong! If I had this ability last night, I would have easily destroyed this demonic locust tree, Su Poman muttered to himself excitedly. After a few breaths, his eyes lit up with a blinding red light again. He tried to channel even more energy, crisscrossing the remains of the demonic locust tree with high-energy laser beams. With a crash, the giant tree, as if cut by a heavenly sword, instantly shattered into pieces. Thick smoke billowed from the remains, and soon a raging fire erupted. Soon, the flames engulfed the remains of the demonic locust tree, creating a vast blaze, its roots and branches reduced to ash in the swirling flames. Tisk-tisk, this heat vision is a bit too strong. Su Poman, overwhelmed with excitement, unleashed several more attacks, slicing several already dilapidated houses into rubble. He was about to turn and leave when he suddenly stumbled and his face turned pale. Shit, why am I suddenly so weak? He quickly sat down on the ground, gasping for air. It felt like he'd watched an art house film for 3 days and 3 nights and used the whole roll of toilet paper. Soon, however, Su Poman, bathed in the sunlight, gradually recovered under the powerful light energy enhancement of his 4th-level black iron body. No wonder I only unlocked this ability after reaching the 4th-level black iron body. With a normal black iron body, it would take me half a day to recover from just one use of thermal vision. Su Poman slowly stood up, feeling the energy replenishing within him. Right now, it seems even with the 4th-level black iron body, I can only use thermal vision as a trump card. To use it freely, I need to continue to improve the completeness of my superhuman body. He glanced at the 1000th percentage on the roulette screen and saw that this draw had brought his superhuman body completeness to over 0.2%. He suddenly began to look forward to encountering monsters like Aohui again on the road. While there are some risks, the rewards are also huge. Su Poman dug out his belongings from the house he'd been staying in, changed into clean clothes, and then, using the sun to determine his direction, continued his journey towards the kingdom of Nanayu. Unleashing his full power, he transformed himself into a wisp of breeze, sweeping across the wilderness. He quickly left the Great Kang Plain and officially entered the territory of Nanayu. The Nanayu border lay within a rugged, mountainous region, dotted with occasional woodcutters, herbalists, and hunters. It was largely uninhabited, and tigers, leopards, and wolves roamed the forests. Su Poman traveled by day, expediting his progress during the day and studying the mountain-moving body refining technique and records of cultivation at night. Crossing mountains and ridges, sleeping in the open, it took him 4 days to finally emerge from the mountains. The first thing he saw ahead was a series of terraced fields, planted with rows of crops, a vibrant expanse of lush green. The crops were growing well, and the farmers had been out to work early. Su Poman walked along the slightly muddy path after the rain, heading towards the more populated town. Perhaps because he was a stranger, passers-by here avoided him and talked about him from a distance. "Look at that stranger, I've never seen him before. Could he be the one from the Blood Goose sect who came to arrest people? He doesn't look like him. The people from the Blood Goose sect are so vicious. Last month, Danya from the next village was arrested. His lame mother cried so hard that she went blind but couldn't get him back. It's so tragic, it's really tragic. We'd better stay away from such strangers. The Blood Goose sect won't take us mortals seriously. I heard that the local county lieutenant and prefect turned a blind eye to this matter. Life is difficult. Let's go home early today." Su Poman activated his super hearing and listened to the conversations of several people nearby for a while, and had a general understanding of the information about this place. This place is located in the southernmost part of the Nanayu Kingdom, on the edge of the 10,000 mountains, and belongs to the Nanjiang Dachuan Prefecture. It is humid and rainy all year round, and there are many poisonous insects and miasma in the jungle. This place is ruled by a demonic sect called Blood Goose Sect. Although it is suppressed by the Dragon Court of the Nanayu Kingdom and cannot massacre mortals, disciples of the Blood Goose Sect often come to the countryside to capture people to practice goo. Chapter 77 Sensing Spiritual Energy. Su Poman also found information about this sect through the records of cultivation. While the Blood Goose Sect was a small immortal sect entrenched in a corner of southern Xinjiang, its strongest member a mere cultivator at the early Golden Core stage, even the 3 major sects dared not underestimate it. This was because its founder was the Grand Elder of the Beast-Taming Sect, a superior cultivation nation, the Master of Spiritual Insects. Born in southern Xinjiang, Master of Spiritual Insects had loved wielding poisonous insects since childhood. After a chance encounter with a sect, he discovered the art of controlling insects in some ruin. From then on, he was captivated and embarked on a journey of extraordinary cultivation. After breaking his elixir and forming an infant, he journeyed to a third-tier cultivation nation, became the Grand Elder of the Beast-Taming Sect, and inaugurated a lineage of insect control. The Blood Goose Sect, entrenched in southern Xinjiang, is the lineage left behind by Master Ling Chong in Nanayu, inheriting some of the cultivation techniques he mastered in his early years. While its influence in Nanayu is modest, its presence, coupled with the limited range of its disciples' activities, has allowed all parties to turn a blind eye to their actions. As long as no brutal acts of massacre or destruction of a village or city occur, even the Immortal Cultivation Alliance will refrain from excessive interference, as Master Ling Chong has connections within the alliance. Since the second-class cultivation nation, every cultivation nation has had alliance guardians. Their purpose is to monitor the actions of the major sects, prevent calamities, and protect mortals. Because mortals are the foundation of the immortal cultivation world and the source of the long-term prosperity of the major immortal sects, the Immortal Cultivation Alliance was established, spearheaded by the 9th-rank cultivation nation. A cultivator in the Mahayana stage serves as the leader, and cultivators in the Tribulation Crossing stage serve as elders. Each immortal cultivation nation has a guardian whose cultivation level is 1 level higher than that of the nation itself. For example, the Nanayu nation is a second-rank cultivation nation, with a cultivation level capped at the Golden Core stage. Its guardian is an alliance deacon in the early nascent soul stage. A third-rank cultivation nation's guardian is at the early spiritualization stage. A ninth-rank cultivation nation's guardians are the alliance leaders. If an evil demon massacres the human race, they will unite to suppress it. These guardians usually practice meditation and do not interfere in the affairs of local sects. Unless something violates the alliance's laws, they maintain a detached position and do not intervene even when local sects attack each other. Su Poman reviewed the information about the Nanayu nation in his mind and determined his location. I definitely won't join a demonic sect like the Blood Goose sect. If I do, I'll have to join a righteous immortal sect, and the cultivation techniques must be quite advanced. Of the three great sects, the Yin Sha sect's name alone suggests it's not righteous. The other two, the Lai Yang sect and the Five Elements sect, are probably okay, but they're both quite far from southern Xinjiang, one in the east, the other in the northern wilderness. This matter requires careful consideration. Su Poman walked along a deserted path, admiring the scenery and taking in the village's streetscape. The architecture here is not much different from that of the Pu Kingdom, except that every household has a peach charm nailed to their door, and some wealthy families even hang gleaming bronze mirrors on their front doors. These features are meant to ward off evil spirits. Nanayu is a second-class cultivation nation, and its spiritual energy isn't as thin as that of the Pu Kingdom. Therefore, it's easy for wild spirits to breed, and those who die unjustly are more likely to transform into ghosts. Therefore, the people here are more taboo against strange happenings, and they adhere to many customs passed down from ancient times. Although the Blood Goose sect acted with dominance, frequently capturing people to refine goo, they also somewhat fulfilled their duty of subjugation, regularly issuing missions to dispatch their disciples to various locations to eradicate evil spirits. At night, the moon cast a shimmering light across the landscape, like a blanket of silver gauze, creating a particularly beautiful scene. The guards on the city walls hunched their backs inside their outposts, huddled together to drink and chat. Unless emergencies arose, they would not emerge. Even to urinate, they would find a wooden barrel inside the outpost and empty it the next day. Su Poman stayed at the Yao Ke Inn on Don City's main street. After a hot bath in his room that night, he retrieved the mountain-moving body refining art from his bag and resumed his study. Su Poman was carrying too much clutter, so he decided to cultivate spiritual power through the mountain refining art so that he could store all his belongings in the storage bag left by Meng Shan. He suspected that the jet-black ring he'd found on the deserted island was most likely a storage ring, requiring spiritual energy to activate. He'd tried various methods before, including blood oaths, fire, and water immersion, but none had any effect on the ring. Therefore, he'd put it aside and kept it hanging around his neck. Now, thinking back to the skeleton on the deserted island, how it retained such a powerful aura even after death, it must have been no ordinary cultivator, at least beyond the key refining stage. If he could unlock the storage ring, he'd surely find a surprise within. Su Poman decided to stay in this small town for a while, practicing the mountain-moving body refining technique before continuing on his journey. The mountain-moving body refining technique didn't require any specific spiritual root attributes, a key reason for its popularity within the cultivation world. Su Poman, therefore, could successfully cultivate it, as long as he possessed spiritual roots. He sat cross-legged on his bed, reciting the key points of the technique, reviewing them over and over again. Only when he felt he had made no mistakes did he begin his practice. After clearing his mind, Su Poman followed the instructions in the mountain refining body art and focused his consciousness on his spiritual platform, attempting to sense the spiritual energy within the universe. Martial arts are the foundation of the heavens. Upon reaching the first level of martial arts, a practitioner's perception of their surroundings becomes heightened, allowing them to sense the presence of spiritual energy more quickly and easily. Once they successfully draw the energy into their bodies, they become a true immortal cultivator. Su Poman's supervision and hearing already gave him a perception far superior to that of an average person. As he concentrated his mind, he faintly perceived a number of luminous, floating points of light. These points were a riot of color: golden, emerald, blue, red, and ochre. In addition, there were purple, cyan, and icy blue points, but these were located farther away and significantly less bright than the previous 5. Furthermore, at the extreme limits of his perception, there were also white and dark points of light. The red light spots made Su Poman feel very warm and comfortable, so Su Poman made a quick decision and began to use his mind to track those red light spots. Chapter 78, inducing ki into the body. Su Poman closed his eyes, his expression aching with agony. His muscles tensed as he laboriously used his mind to move the crimson fire spiritual energy around him, slowly drawing it into his body. Even the greatest physical strength couldn't accelerate the process of drawing the energy into the body, because it was the mind, not the flesh, that drew the spiritual energy. The mind, or will, was a manifestation of the strength of a person's soul. While physical strength could strengthen the soul, the tiny improvement was extremely limited. Only by cultivating the spirit could one continuously strengthen one's spirit, transforming it into an even more powerful form, the primordial spirit. Despite Su Poman's formidable physique, the power of his mind was like a child pulling a sledgehammer against the particles of crimson fire spiritual energy. Every pull consumed his energy, and a sense of mental fatigue permeated his mind. I just don't believe it. Drawing the energy into the body could be so difficult for me. Su Poman gritted his teeth and formed a few strange hand gestures. The power of his spirit, transformed into a fine thread, wrapped around the nearest crimson point of light, and then pulled it with all his might. Though the crimson light was suspended in the air, it felt as if it weighed 1,000 pounds. The thin threads of spiritual energy were incredibly difficult to pull it, and every time one snapped, Su Poman's face paled further. A quarter of an hour later, Su Poman was drenched in sweat. Although he knew that muscle strength wouldn't be enough to pull spiritual energy through spiritual energy, he subconsciously tensed his entire body, his muscles tensing to the utmost as he drew the energy into his body. The crimson spiritual energy made contact with his skin, and a tearing sensation spread through him. However, with his physique, he quickly adapted to this sensation. The spiritual energy flowed slowly through his meridians, creating a tearing sensation with every inch it passed through. Perhaps only he could fully withstand this level of damage. In reality, within the immortal realm, drawing ki into the body is a gradual process, requiring healing each time a small section of the meridians is opened. While some, like Su Poman, attempt to do this all at once, they are exceptional spirits with all their meridians fully open, a rare breed. Furthermore, before inducing the flow, they must consume a nourished meridian pill to protect their meridians from the ravages of the untamed, violent spiritual energy. Su Poman was unfamiliar with this common knowledge. His constitution was exceptional, his every inch of flesh and blood incredibly resilient. The tiny wounds ripped open by the spiritual energy healed gradually under the influence of his black iron body. For an ordinary person, such a reckless induction would undoubtedly cause severe internal injuries, requiring a long period of recovery before attempting another induction. The crimson light, guided by him, traveled along a specific path through the meridians. Following the method described in the mountain refining body art, he not only used his internal ki to irrigate the spiritual energy, but also attempted to bring a portion of his internal ki and blood into contact with it. After circulating through the meridians, the crimson spiritual energy seemed noticeably calmer, no longer as violent. Su Poman directed it towards his dantian. Almost there. Su Poman tapped several acupuncture points on his chest with 2 fingers. Then, a flash of red light appeared 3 inches below his navel. Within his dantian, as the spark of fire spiritual energy entered the internal energy, a massive explosion erupted, like Mars hitting the Earth. Rumbling, pure energy ascended, turbid energy descended. The spiritual energy and internal energy reacted violently, and the scene within his dantian seemed to be creating a new world. A white mist continuously appeared around Su Poman, and a constant hissing sound emanated from his abdomen. It sounded like a branding iron dropped into a misty watery atmosphere. The total amount of internal energy was rapidly decreasing. The spiritual energy began to combine with some of the internal energy, generating a power even more advanced than internal energy, spiritual power. However, a single point of fire attributed spiritual energy alone wasn't enough to transform all the internal energy within the dantian into spiritual power. However, the presence of spiritual power was like sowing a seed in vibrant soil. With a continuous supply of spiritual energy, spiritual power would continue to be generated. It's done, Su Poman slowly concluded his practice. He felt as if he had just been pulled out of the water. He felt exhausted, his face pale and bloodless, as if he had suffered a serious illness. This was a sign of excessive mental exertion. A mortal spirit was too weak, making even the slightest spiritual energy incredibly difficult to draw upon. His head tilted, and he collapsed onto the bed, closing his eyes and falling into deep sleep. The next morning, Su Poman slept until noon before waking. When he arose, he still felt a bit groggy. I didn't expect this drawing key into the body step to be so difficult. With an ordinary body, I'm afraid even drawing key into the body would be difficult. I wonder how other immortal cultivators manage to do it, Su Poman thought, rubbing his head. But thankfully, I successfully drew the key into my body last night. Next, I'll be ready to practice the mountain refining body art. Su Poman rubbed his hands excitedly and opened the small window in his room. It faced Dawn City's Kingliu River. Several pleasure boats floated on the river, and scantily clad women on board waved and smiled sweetly at passers-by on the shore. Red sleeves floated on the boats, and the refreshing fragrance of young women drifted down the river. A poem from Blue Star, Bodhisattva Man, suddenly popped into Su Poman's mind. Now I recall the joys of Jiangnan, young in thin spring clothes. Riding a horse, leaning on a sloping bridge, red sleeves waving from the building, Su Poman shook his head and subconsciously recited the poem softly. The poem was perfectly appropriate for the situation. Pa pa pa! Suddenly, a soft applause came from downstairs. Beautiful words, beautiful words. I wonder who is that brother upstairs, and whose work is he reciting? I've never heard of such a masterpiece before. Su Poman looked up and saw a handsome young man dressed as a scholar, half of his body leaning out from the downstairs. The moment their eyes met, Su Poman couldn't help blushing, and thought inwardly, it's actually a guy disguised as a man, haha, just random recitation, don't take it seriously. Su Poman waved his hand and then retracted his head. As a newcomer, Su Poman was not very familiar with the situation in Nanayu. So he didn't want to cause trouble. He didn't want to cause trouble, but trouble still found him. Clumsy, there was a knock on the door, and Su Poman felt a little overwhelmed. He opened the door and saw that it was indeed the handsome young man disguised as a man. Su Poman subconsciously looked him up and down, and couldn't help but sigh in amazement. I can't tell, despite his young age, he has developed well. Chapter 79 Key Refining Stage. Young master, you look unfamiliar. Are you not from here? The handsome young man asked with a smile. Su Poman averted his gaze awkwardly, coughed twice, and then said, Young master, you are indeed a discerning person. I am also new to your precious land. I was hoping to find old friends, but I didn't realize they moved away months ago. He made up a pretext, intending to deal with the female cultivator before him. No wonder. The poem you just recited was a masterpiece. I'm delighted to see you, so I came up to make your acquaintance. I hope I didn't disturb your pleasure. My name is Mo Sungan. May I know your name? The young man, surnamed Mo, had the air of a scholar in his every move, and his eyes, looking at Su Poman, showed particular admiration. No, I'm Su Poman, and I'm honored to meet you, young Master Mo, Su Poman said with a smile, bowing. The young man surnamed Mo returned the greeting respectfully, and then said eagerly, so it's Mr. Su. I heard that there is a prostitute with extraordinary talent and skills in the nearby pleasure boat. She likes to read poetry and books, and she likes to associate with talented scholars. If Mr. Su is free tonight, I would like to set up a table in the pleasure boat and invite Mr. Liu to come over to recite poems and compose couplets with Brother Su. Okay, Su Poman felt a little weird. The little girl in front of him actually wanted to invite him to visit a brothel together. He pondered for a moment, nodded and said, okay, Mr. Mo, let's see you tonight, it's a deal. Okay, it's a deal. After seeing off the female cultivator surnamed Mo, Su Poman left the city, intending to find a remote place outside Dawn City to practice the mountain-moving body refining technique. Mo Mingzhu returned to her room, a sly look in her eyes. She glanced at the letters on her desk and muttered to herself, the market says a pack of vixens, fond of feasting on scholars, have recently arrived in Dawn City. They've already made some progress in their cultivation. If Su Poman recites a few poems, those vixens will surely reveal their true colors. Then it will be time for me, Lady Mo, to slay the demons. Humph, I must make sure father knows that I, Mo Mingzhu, am no less capable than my elder brother and can be a qualified exorcist. As she spoke, she gently folded a yellow paper crane, muttered something, and lightly tapped its head with her index finger. A flash of light flashed from the crane, its wings fluttered twice, and it soared into the air, transforming into a shadow that vanished into the clouds outside the window. On a steep cliff, Su Poman sat cross-legged, his hands forming a strange hand seal. Wisps of spiritual energy from heaven and earth were absorbed into his body. After a great cycle of circulation, half of this energy returned to his danshan, forming a fiery red spiritual force. The remaining portion merged into his flesh and blood, forming a fiery red Genki. This spiritual energy also tempered his flesh and bones, indirectly enhancing his body's defense and self-healing abilities, while also significantly increasing his strength. This fiery red Genki is the main tool of body cultivators. Not only can it be detonated to injure enemies, it also possesses considerable defensive and offensive power. Similar to an upgraded product of internal energy, it has a wide range of uses and is a unique energy source for body cultivators. A red line appeared on Su Poman's chest, like a tattoo, marking his official entry into the mountain-moving body refining art. Simultaneously, his muscles began to be tempered by spiritual energy, and a faint red glow appeared on the surface of his skin. A thin layer of fiery red Genki emerged from the line. Boom! His danchin shook. Ki refining stage 1. The moment Su Poman entered the moving mountain body refining technique, a flicker of spiritual awareness emerged within his mind. Though his eyes were closed, he could still clearly see everything within a radius of 2 or 3 meters. My spiritual awareness is too weak. If I encounter a cultivator who specializes in spiritual attacks, it will be disastrous. Although the key of a physical cultivator can block many spiritual attacks, it is still a weakness. When I join the Immortal sect, I must find a technique to cultivate my spiritual awareness and strengthen my soul. The records of cultivation detailed the strengths and weaknesses of physical cultivators. The spiritual awareness range of a typical Ki refining stage 1 cultivator can reach 7 or 8 meters, 2 to 3 times that of a physical cultivator of the same level. The gap widens as time goes on. This is mainly due to the different focuses of the two. One focuses on the physical body, while the other focuses more on the spiritual awareness. Only with a strong spiritual awareness can one unleash more powerful spells. Su Poman gently exhaled the foul air from his chest, his body radiating a faint red glow, his overall strength increasing several points. The first level of the mountain moving body refining technique grants a practitioner the strength of 10 bulls. Its protective Ki is also extremely potent. A first-grade grandmaster lacking a heavenly martial art wouldn't even be able to break through that thin layer of Ki defense. This is the difference between immortals and mortals. The quality and strength of spiritual energy are dozens of times greater than internal Ki. For mortals to reverse course and defeat immortals is practically impossible, save for a pervert like Su Poman. Within the immortal sects, many disciples never practice martial arts, instead relying on their spiritual roots to cultivate directly. In just a few years, if they can successfully draw Ki into their bodies, they can attain strength far exceeding that of a warrior who has practiced for decades. This world is inherently unfair, and even more so in the world of immortal cultivation. Some are born with a silver spoon in their mouths, their tendons and marrow cleansed by masters from a young age to improve their cultivation aptitude, and they also possess abundant cultivation resources. These are the second generation of cultivators. Their elders are cultivators, so their descendants naturally gain power more easily than others. In contrast, some people in Pu state still struggle to make ends meet, selling everything they had and going through untold hardships just to support a single warrior. This made no sense at all. If I had been able to travel back to a second-rate cultivation nation, I'd probably have increased my strength even faster. Su Poman sighed, feeling the increased strength within him. Now that I possess spiritual power, I should be able to open that storage bag. Su Poman pulled the gray cloth bag from his arms and attempted to inject a trace of spiritual power into it. However, his expression changed. A look of surprise and doubt on his face. He felt as if his spiritual power was encountering some resistance. Then, scanning with his spiritual sense, he detected a trace of black spiritual power within the microscopic formation in the storage bag's subtle area. Could this be the spiritual power left behind by Meng Shan? Su Poman carefully controlled his fiery red spiritual power with his spiritual sense, probing the formation, slowly encircling it and forcing out the remaining black spiritual power from Meng Shan. While the black spiritual energy was of high quality, it was truly a sourceless source. Its master, Meng Shan, had fallen, and the energy was no match for the erosion of the fiery red spiritual energy. Slowly, the miniature formation was completely overtaken by the fiery red spiritual energy, and the original black spiritual energy within was also driven out. With a touch of his finger, Su Poman transformed it into 2 energy points. After refining the storage bag, Su Poman's spiritual sense revealed its contents. It was a square space of approximately 2 cubic meters, with some clothing and miscellaneous items piled in the corners. After confirming each item, Su Poman mentally removed the items and tossed them into the depths of the cliff. He then placed the several ancient books he had brought with him, including the broken black blade, into the storage bag. Chapter 80 Stored Ring. Su Poman took the item back and forth with great interest, playing with it for a long time before reluctantly stuffing it into his arms. His expression straightened, and after activating his supervision to confirm that no one was around, he slowly reached around his neck and pulled out a jet black ring with a string. Su Poman placed the black ring before his eyes, releasing his spiritual consciousness from between his brows to envelop it. From his spiritual consciousness, he saw mysterious and obscure formations unfold within the ring's subtle details, emanating a terrifying spiritual power like a mountain of reversed fire. From his observation, the crimson spiritual power seemed more powerful than his own combined, emanating a terrifying might that sent a strange burning sensation through his heart. Such powerful spiritual power. What level of cultivation did that skeleton reach in his lifetime? Just a remnant of spiritual energy fills me with awe, Su Poman exclaimed, his face filled with unconcealed wonder. If I can unlock this ring, I'm sure to find many treasures. Su Poman attempted to slowly penetrate the formations with his own spiritual power, but to his surprise, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't force his spiritual power to break through the barrier. This result left him deeply disappointed. Alice, it must be because my cultivation is too low. I can't even break through the formation barrier. It seems this ring can only be unsealed after my cultivation reaches a certain level. Su Poman, with a hint of disappointment, hung the black ring back around his neck and tucked it into his clothing, concealing it. An innocent man is guilty of possessing a treasure. In the world of immortal cultivation, countless examples of people being hunted down and killed for possessing treasures are numerous. He needed to keep a treasure like this close to him for peace of mind, and he could also protect it within the biological realm to prevent others from snatching it. Su Poman sighed and muttered to himself, my physique is somewhat useful for martial arts practice, but practicing the mountain-moving body refining technique won't accelerate my progress. I can only hope to win some special ability in the future that will accelerate my training. After sighing, he withdrew the tome ancient breath containment technique from his storage bag and began to study it. While the introductory level of this secret technique was not difficult, cultivating it to the minor success stage took some time. An average cultivator would struggle to achieve it without more than 3 to 5 years, and the major success stage was even more difficult. Even the most gifted would need over a decade to achieve it, which was not worth the effort. Su Poman reviewed the secret formula in his mind and felt the entry requirements were not difficult. He simply needed to create a special spiritual energy pathway within the meridians above his dantian to conceal a portion of his cultivation. Time passed slowly. Atop the cliff, Su Poman's spiritual aura suddenly vanished. Even with his clairvoyant eyes, he looked like a mere mortal. He slowly opened his eyes, gazed at the setting sun, and muttered, "It's getting late. Time to go back." Su Poman leaped from the cliff face, his body like a piece of cotton wool in the wind. With a few taps in the air, he ascended the cliff face. The sun gradually sank in the west. When Su Poman left the city, he was still a mortal warrior. By the time he returned, he had become an immortal cultivator. His aura had undergone a subtle change, imperceptible to ordinary people. He seemed even more otherworldly, with a sense of ethereal grace. As soon as Su Poman returned to the Yaokei Inn, a servant approached him with a flattering smile. "Young Master Su, a young Master Mo just invited you to the Kingliu pleasure boat on the banks of the Kingliu River." "Okay, I understand," Su Poman said with a faint smile, tossing a few copper coins to the servants and ascending the wooden stairs to the second floor. Unlocking the door and returning to his room, Su Poman took out some gold and silver from a package and put them in his pocket, then placed the package in his storage bag. He left the inn, walked along the main street to the end, then turned west. After about a quarter of an hour's walk, he came upon a scene of weeping willows lining the embankment. Here, the Kingliu River suddenly widened, forming a continuous lake. In the evening, willows swayed along the embankment, and tufts of lush green grass emerged from the gravel. The evening breeze brought gusts of fragrant air. The girls in the pleasure boat were now in the prime of their activity, soliciting customers. Their arms, half exposed, waved their red sleeves over the railings, their charming voices drawing a strange look from passers-by. Married men were hurried away by the ears, while bachelors gazed longingly toward the pleasure boat, But with limited funds, they could only feast their eyes. A few shameless drunks sniffed the boat, their eyes etched with fascination. Su Poman stepped onto the pier, and amid the envious gazes of the idlers, he was greeted by the beaming madam at the entrance of the pleasure boat. Mr. Su, please come this way. Young Master Mo is waiting for you in the private rooms upstairs. The madam was a woman in her 50s, with a snobbish air about her features, yet her graceful features hinted at a striking beauty in her youth. In fact, some idle men who couldn't afford young girls would choose to spend a low price to enjoy a fling with the old procuress. Although the old woman's appearance was no longer youthful and delicate, she was still slender, more than enough to satisfy the hunger of these poor men. Su Poman gently pushed aside the many girls who were lingering on his arms and walked up the stairs to the private rooms on the second floor of the pleasure boat. The layout here was completely different from the downstairs, with a more literary and artistic atmosphere. At the same time, the quarters were not crowded. Each room was more than half a meter away. The maids waiting outside were not the vulgar women downstairs. Each one had a delicate face and a cold expression. Su Poman nodded secretly, thinking that this pleasure boat was indeed good at business and had a very clear understanding of men's minds. Young Master Su, please come this way. Madame Liu is getting ready. She'll be out in a moment to entertain our guests. The madam, with a fawning smile on her face, half bowed, inviting Su Poman in. She knew young Master Mo's wealth and assumed this young Master Su must be someone of wealth and status, so she acted with great hospitality. Brother Su is here. The voice of the female cultivator surnamed Mo rang out from within the room, her voice deliberately lowered. Su Poman lifted the beaded curtain, a rustling sound, and revealed an ancient and elegant room. At the entrance stood a brocade screen, embroidered with a landscape scroll and dark silk thread. On either side of the wall stood a large white porcelain vase, each containing plum blossoms, their branches covered in dew, emitting a faint floral fragrance. Chapter 81 Demonic Possession. After passing the screen, he saw a female cultivator surnamed Mo standing there, beaming at him. He was dressed in a Confucian robe, with layers of cloth wrapped around his chest. Even so, his chest muscles appeared overdeveloped. Su Poman bowed and said with a smile, "Greetings, young Master Mo. It's been a few days since we last met, and your chest muscles have grown even more. I'm truly enviable." Mo Mingzu's pretty face flushed, and a flash of anger flashed across her eyes. Her petite figure exuded a fierce aura, but she suppressed her anger and put on a smile. "Brother Su, come and take a seat. The banquet is ready, and the Liu family will probably be here soon. Let's have some drinks first." Pa. The female cultivator surnamed Mo clapped her hands softly, and several maids in green dresses streamed in, carrying plates. The plates were placed on the table in an orderly manner, and the aroma of various exquisite dishes immediately filled the air. Each guest here had a small table laden with food and drinks. Su Poman and the female cultivator surnamed Mo sat opposite each other, 4 or 5 steps apart. "Brother Su, don't be polite. Let's eat first. I heard the steamed sea bass in this pleasure boat is a specialty. Come and try it." The female cultivator surnamed Mo picked up her chopsticks and gestured to Su Poman. Su Poman picked up his chopsticks, picked up a piece of fish, put it in his mouth, chewed it gently, and said, "The fragrance lingers on my teeth, and it's smooth and refreshing. This steamed fish is really good." Haha, Brother Su, the food is secondary. The most famous thing about this King Shuang pleasure boat is probably their top performer. I heard that the Liu family is extremely beautiful. This trip to Dawn City is a good opportunity to see her, the female cultivator surnamed Mo said with a quizzical smile, a hint of teasing between her brows. Su Poman sampled another dish, put down his chopsticks, and said with a smile, "Since I have the opportunity, I must meet this beautiful lady. I wonder when Master Liu will arrive." "Don't worry, Brother Su. I've already spent a fortune to invite her. With your talent, there's a chance you could become Master Liu's lover. I heard Master Liu really likes talented scholars." "Well, then, let's drink first." As they were talking, the beaded curtain outside the door rustled again. "Master Liu is here," the shrill-voiced old man shouted at the door, attracting guests from other rooms to come out and see. A beautiful woman walked up the stairs. A closer look revealed phoenix eyes, cherry lips, a pointed chin, skin as white as jade, and a tall figure like a willow in the wind. Her slender waist was wrapped in a translucent white silk ribbon, which vaguely revealed and aroused endless reverie. "Master Liu is here. Go out and take a look. What a beautiful woman." "Master Liu, It's really Master Liu. I'd love to be Master Liu's lover for once. I'd die for it. Yes, even if I die beneath the peony flowers, I'd still be a romantic. We can't afford a star like her. I wonder who in the Plum Blossom Room is willing to spend so much money to have Master Liu perform music alone. The spectators couldn't hide their excitement. They watched Master Liu enter the Plum Blossom Room before reluctantly returning to their rooms. As the beaded curtain swayed, Liu Baoer entered, clutching a guqin. Brother Su, Master Liu is here. Look, the female cultivator surnamed Mo warned. Something strange. Su Poman, his supervision activated, clearly noticed that the woman's flesh and blood were different from those of ordinary people. A dark green aura emanated from her body, and a mysterious ball of light seemed to reside in her head. Her figure and appearance were influenced by this mysterious power, becoming incredibly charming, with a proud figure and curves. Demon possession. Su Poman was startled, recalling some instances from the records of cultivation. Legend has it that some demons possess a unique ability, abandoning their physical bodies to cultivate exclusively as demonic spirits. They cultivate their demonic spirits by repeatedly possessing the bodies of other animals or humans. While this method is prone to accidents, it also leads to incredibly rapid progress. The added benefit is that their lifespan is greatly extended, unconstrained by the physical body's lifespan. Some special demons nearing the end of their lifespans choose to abandon their physical bodies to continue their cultivation this way. His expression remained normal, but a certain level of guardedness rose within him. Liu Baoer, greetings to the two young masters. Upon entering, the Liu family curtsied, embracing their guqin. Whether intentional or not, the whiteness of her chest was inadvertently exposed to the two men's view. A strange glint flashed in the eyes of the female cultivator surnamed Mo, and she couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, Master Liu is truly worthy of being the top star of the pleasure boat. Her beauty is beyond mortal. Young master, you're too kind. Master Liu's eyes sparkled, as if filled with spring water, and her voice was sweet and captivating. Su Poman felt a tingling sensation all over his body, and he sighed inwardly, what a seductress. I wonder why this woman surnamed Mo invited me here. This is a bit strange. Let's just take a look. He smiled innocently and quickly stood up to pay his respects, looking like a foolish young man bewitched. Liu Baoer covered her face with a soft chuckle, her gaze lingering briefly on Su Poman. You two gentlemen look a little unfamiliar. I wonder where you are from. The female cultivator surnamed Mo seemed to have prepared her words long ago, and she deflected the question without Su Poman even needing to speak. Liu Baoer then placed the guqin on the central stand and gently leaned forward, revealing a pair of hands as white as jade from her sleeves. Night had fallen, and the lights were beginning to shine. The thousands of lights along the Qingliu River pale in comparison to the dazzling lights on the Qingshuang pleasure boat. The red lanterns outside, like a sign of great celebration, gave the man inside the feeling of a wedding night. From the private room on the second floor, the faint sound of a guqin filled the air as Liu Baoer's fingers plucked the instrument, delivering a breathtaking rendition of Lian Jiangquan. Su Poman, not a master of musical theory, found the woman's gestures graceful and beautiful, the melody evocative, but he was unable to offer a deeper appreciation. The female cultivator surnamed Mo watched Liu Baoer's performance with a half-smile, stroking her wine glass with apparent ease, occasionally sharing a drink with Su Poman from a distance. After 3 songs, Liu Baoer rose, bowed, and prepared to depart. At this moment, the female cultivator surnamed Mo stood up, clapped her hands and said with a smile, Master Liu's piano music is indeed pleasant to the ears. Don't leave in a hurry. I'm here to introduce you to a great talent. I've heard that Master Liu likes talented scholars, so I specially invited Brother Su to come and have a discussion with Master Liu. Oh? Talented? Liu Baoer turned her gaze to Su Poman and looked him up and down carefully. So this Mr. Su is a talented man. I'm so sorry, but could I read Brother Su's excellent work? Excellent work. Su Poman was stunned. Just as he was about to shirk and explain, the female cultivator surnamed Mo took out a piece of rice paper from her sleeve and handed it to Liu Baoer. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Copying Poems into Text. Liu Baoer took it and unfolded it, glancing briefly at it. A look of surprise crossed her eyes, and she parted her red lips as she recited the poem word for word. Now I recall the joys of Jiangnan, when I was young and dressed in thin spring clothes. Riding a horse, I leaned against a sloping bridge, red sleeves waving from the building. Seeing the blossoms from this time, I vow never to return, even when I am old. A wonderful poem. After Liu Baoer finished, she gazed at Su Poman with astonishment, her almond-shaped eyes full of spring. I didn't expect young Master Su to be such a talented scholar. I wonder where this Jiangnan is? Could it be young Master Su's hometown? I guess so. Su Poman nodded, feeling that the scene before him was increasingly strange. He hadn't yet cultivated his spiritual eye technique, so he couldn't discern the origins of the woman surnamed Mo. He could only see that she was a petite and delicate human, and wondered what her connection to the demon before him was. This time I see the blossoming flowers, I vow never to return until I'm old. It seems Master Su is also a passionate playboy. Liu Baoer repeated the lines, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth, as she said playfully. Su Poman quickly waved his hand. No, it's just youth and incomprehension. Since you have such talent, could you please write another poem? I'd like to broaden my horizons and hope to obtain a copy of your authentic calligraphy. Liu Baoer approached Su Poman and spoke seriously. The distance between them was only 2 or 3 inches, and a permeating fragrance continuously penetrated Su Poman's nostrils. Impure thoughts could not help but arise in his mind, and all sorts of obscene images of himself and Liu Baoer came flooding back. What a powerful charm! It feels like a movie playing in my mind. Who could resist this? Su Poman's spiritual consciousness couldn't help but jump, and his mind suddenly cleared, his eyes brightening. Okay, Miss Liu, I'll give it a try. Liu Baoer's eyes flashed with a brief moment of surprise, as if she were puzzled as to why the man before her wasn't affected by her charm. Then her gaze fell on young Master Mo, and noticing that he too remained lucid, a faint suspicion welled up within her. Upon hearing the order, the maid at the door immediately brought the 4 treasures of the study. Liu Baoer personally sharpened the inkstone, while young Master Mo stood to one side, his head tilted as he watched. Su Poman grasped the wolf hair brush, dipped it in ink, lightly touched the white rice paper, and then wrote with remarkable fluidity, as if he had pre-written the poem. Poem. Liu Baoer's green jade lyrics ask the world, what is love? It makes us pledge each other through life and death. Flying together in pairs, north and south, their old wings have weathered the cold and heat of winter. Joy is joy, parting is pain, and even among them are foolish children. You should have a word. Amidst the vast clouds, amidst the snowy mountains at dusk, to whom is your solitary figure heading? Across the fen river, the flute and drum of yesteryear are lonely. The desolate smoke still lay flat and clear. How could the summoning of the spirits be compared? The mountain ghosts wept silently in the wind and rain. The heavens were jealous, unbelievable. The orioles and swallows have all returned to the earth. For millennia, it has been left for poets to visit the wild goose mounds with revelatory song and revelry. The astonishment in Liu Baoer's eyes grew. Though a demonic spirit, she possessed a fondness for human literature, possessing a profound appreciation for poetry and prose. Decades of experience had left her on par with even the most renowned. As she read the poem, her vision blurred as the verses unfolded. The poem brought back so many memories. She remembered her partner, slain by an exorcist in Moon Fox Cave many years ago. She recalled the unforgettable love a mortal woman felt for a heartbroken scholar during her first demonic possession. Centuries of memories captivated her, a chorus of emotions welling up within her. If she had deeply admired the previous poem, this one, seemingly written specifically for her, truly touched her deeply. This poem is worthy of being passed down through the ages. After reading it, the female cultivator surnamed Mo was stunned. She had originally considered Su Poman merely a tool to locate the fox demon's lair, but now, she hesitated. It would be a tragedy for such a talented person to perish at the hands of a demon. However, the thought only flashed through her mind. As the jewel of the Mo family, she had to prove to the clan that her talent and potential were no less than her elder brothers. The two women's gazes towards Su Poman shifted slightly. Liu Baoer's gaze lingered on the poem, as if it held a certain philosophical meaning. The more she read, the more it captivated her. Young Master Su is unlike those fake talents I've encountered before. With these 2 poems, he has earned the title of the most talented writer in the land of Nanayu, Liu Baoer said with a smile as beautiful as a flower, her tone filled with deep admiration. Su Poman's face flushed. He knew his own worth best. These two poems were originally written by ancient sages on Blue Star, so he felt a little embarrassed to accept such undeserved praise. I will definitely frame this calligraphy. Mr. Su's original work will probably be priceless in the future. Liu Baor solemnly rolled up the rice paper and placed it in the violin case. Su Poman shook his head slightly and smiled. Miss Liu, you are too kind. Liu Baor sat down next to Su Poman, clinking glasses with him and even thoughtfully placing some of the food she thought was delicious into his bowl. The atmosphere was quite ambiguous. After 3 rounds of drinks, Liu Baor's face flushed, looking very attractive, and a hazy look appeared in her eyes. She stood up slowly, as if she was about to leave. The female cultivator surnamed Mo remained silent, as if waiting for something, her expression slightly struggling. Mr. Su, you are truly talented. Baor would like to invite you to our old house outside the city. Take advantage of the beautiful moonlight to discuss poetry in depth. Liu Baor stared directly at Su Poman, her beautiful eyes brimming with anticipation, making the man reluctant to refuse. However, Su Poman hesitated. He had no experience battling demonic spirits before, so he wasn't sure how powerful they were. If he went and found himself outmatched, it would be dangerous. Moreover, in this situation, he had just embarked on the path of cultivation and was still relatively unfamiliar with many things. Therefore, he didn't want to cause any complications. He planned to leave the southern border area after stabilizing his realm in a few days. Miss Liu, it's getting late, and I'm a little tired. Why don't we make an appointment later? Su Poman's words surprised both present. The female cultivator surnamed Mo gave him a look of surprise, feeling a bit strange. What kind of man could refuse an invitation from such a beautiful woman? Could this guy be a Liu Xiaowei? Liu Baor looked even more surprised, for this was the first time she had failed in her attempt to invite someone. Often, those men would beg to be her lover, hoping for a night of pleasure. And what surprised her most was that her charm skills had no effect on the 2 men before her. This was the first time such a situation had occurred. Chapter 83 Demonic Spirit. Very well, then, when Master Su is free, I'll be ready to welcome you, Liu Baor said with a hint of meaning, her alluring peach blossom eyes brimming with spring water. She bit her lower lip, a hint of reluctance in her eyes. Master Liu's invitation is the dream of every man in Dawn City. Such a great opportunity, and yet Brother Su turned it down? Would you like to reconsider? The female cultivator surnamed Mo said soothingly, her face showing an expression of impatience. Su Poman shook his head, looking at the woman disguised as a man before him. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Master Mo, I've made up my mind. If you wish to visit Master Liu's mansion, I can offer you this opportunity. Master Liu, my brother is also a scholar with a deep understanding of poetry. I'm busy tonight. Why don't you let Brother Mo go and have a conversation with Miss Liu first? Next time, we can go as a group, Su Poman said sincerely. Liu Baor was about to refuse, but after seeing Su Poman's earnest gaze, she nodded in a strange way. Since Mr. Mo is Mr. Su's friend, he must be a talented scholar. If you're willing, Mr. Mo, you can come back to my old house to admire the moon and recite poetry. Brother Su, you truly are my good brother. It's truly admirable that you're willing to offer this precious opportunity. I'll toast you another glass. The female cultivator surnamed Mo's eyes lit up with excitement. She turned around, picked up the wine glass on the table, and drank it all. I'm so lucky to be able to admire the moon with Master Liu. This trip to Dawn City was worth it. The female cultivator surnamed Mo looked thrilled, but a strange glint lingered in her eyes. Su Poman sensed that both of them were hiding something. He smiled and said goodbye to them before heading downstairs and leaving the pleasure boat. Outside, the cool evening breeze blew, carrying a hint of the fragrance of cosmetics. Su Poman walked along the riverbank for a while before turning toward the main street and returning to the inn. By this time, the streets were sparsely populated. The occasional drunken gamblers shouting from the sidewalk was particularly jarring on the quiet street. After closing the doors and windows, Su Poman began practicing the mountain refining body art, aiming to solidify his key refining stage 1 tonight. Upon entering the key refining stage, the spiritual energy within his Danshan was pitifully low, unable to even cast a complete low-level spell. Su Poman slowly absorbed the spiritual energy from heaven and earth, circulating it continuously within his body, slowly refining it into spiritual power. The spiritual energy entered his body through 480 million pores, flowing through his meridians, nourishing his body and spiritual consciousness. He felt a sense of clarity, like a drunk drinking a bowl of sobering soup, clear and lucid. As the spiritual energy from heaven and earth continued to be refined, the spiritual power within Su Poman's Danshan also increased at an extremely slow pace. A faint red line appeared and disappeared across his chest, as if breathing. At midnight, the moonlight was hazy. Su Poman sat on the bed, slowly exhaling. He stretched out his legs, preparing to rest, when suddenly a gust of wind rustled through the window. Bang! The window was shattered by a dark figure. Su Poman, startled, looked closely and saw the woman surnamed Mo vomiting blood. A large area of the floor was sprayed red, and the air was thick with the smell of blood. Her face was pale and bloodless, her clothes were tattered, and her hair was disheveled. She looked utterly miserable. Mr. Mo? What's wrong with you? Su Poman didn't move, nor did he rush to help her, because he was aware of the spiritual power emanating from the woman surnamed Mo. Mr. Su, save me. Before the woman surnamed Mo could finish her words, her head hit the floor and she fainted. Knock, knock, knock. Sir, is there something going on in there? The waiter had reached the door and knocked. Another big trouble. Su Poman frowned, but at this critical moment, he couldn't stand by and watch. He scooped the female cultivator, surnamed Mo, into his arms and leaped out through the gaping hole in the window. A faint red energy emanated from his legs, and his speed suddenly increased. He transformed into a phantom, leaping over the walls of Dawn City and hurtling towards the dark wasteland outside. The wind whistled in his ears, but he didn't dare stop, for his keen senses detected danger approaching from within the city. I was wondering who it was. It's Master Su. I had no idea you were also a cultivator. What a pity. I was quite fond of you and wanted to take you back to my mansion to spend a few days there before devouring you. A faint sigh echoed from behind him. A tremendous pressure rose from behind him, like a mountain bearing down on him. Su Poman's mind raced with alarm, sensing a life-threatening crisis. He immediately tossed the Mo cultivator behind him and fled at an even faster pace. Senior, if you want revenge on her, I'll give her to you. It's none of my business. Don't chase me. Su Poman was no fool. In this life-or-death situation, with his own life on the line, he'd rather die than let his friend die. Besides, he had no deep friendship with the Mo cultivator, so it was unwise to risk his life against an unpredictable demonic spirit for someone who was using him. HMPH, you're sensible. For your poetry, I'll spare your life this time. The laughter faded, but Su Poman's nervousness persisted, as if some threat still lingered. Without looking back, he fled the Huan area overnight, finally breathing a sigh of relief. Su Poman's spiritual energy had been completely depleted during his all-out charge. He sat down under a tree, intending to meditate and recover his strength. Suddenly, he saw a young woman in a white dress appear at the intersection ahead, her back to him. Su Poman abruptly stood up, his face grim as he spoke weakly. Senior, didn't you say you'd spare my life? Why are you chasing me now? Liu Baor turned, her face icy and her eyes gleaming with a chill. Haha, I wanted to let you go, but she wouldn't let me, Liu Baor said with a quizzical smile, then gestured to herself. Su Poman looked bewildered and smiled stiffly. Senior, don't joke around. Don't you have the final say on everything? How can a flesh body make the decision, huh? Not bad, you actually saw it. Haha, it's okay to tell you. When I broke through to the Foundation establishment stage, I was affected by the obsession of my flesh body, and my cultivation couldn't make any progress. Only by satisfying the obsession of this flesh body can I improve my cultivation. But don't worry, I won't kill you so soon. If your body is healthy enough, you can live longer. Liu Baor's eyes suddenly revealed a sense of vicissitudes. And she said calmly. Foundation establishment stage. Chapter 84, Pseudo-Chaos Spiritual Root? Su Poman was shocked and thought to himself, no wonder I felt so much pressure from her. It's all because of that big fool Mos Hengen. He actually provoked a demon spirit in the Foundation establishment stage. He really doesn't know how to live or die. He wants to exorcise demons without even asking beforehand. He felt a little bitter, but Su Poman had no intention of surrendering. He still had one last trump card that he hadn't used. If he caught the demon spirit off guard, he might be able to seriously injure it by surprise. That girl named Mo was decisive. She actually used a talisman to trap me in place. Otherwise, she wouldn't have let her escape. Now I have another body that can be replaced, and the aptitude is not bad. I can freeze it for later use, Liu Baor said as she slowly walked towards Su Poman. The demonic power on her body formed a powerful momentum. Su Poman was like a mouse blocked in a dead end by an old cat. The gap in strength was too big. Without other means, he was unable to escape. Su Poman, a bitter expression on his face, allowed the old demon before him to grasp his arm. Then, a powerful dark green demonic energy entered his body, transforming into a vast silken web that enveloped his Danshan, completely sealing his spiritual energy. He was now a mere mortal once more, unable to mobilize any spiritual energy. Hey, human boy, now in my hands, I will treat you well. Liu Baor gently stroked Su Poman's cheek with her fingers, smiling charmingly. Then, she flipped her hands and pulled out a strange-looking compass. I found this treasure in an ancient cultivator's tomb. It's more accurate than the spirit-testing compasses used in the Nanayu sects. Let me first test your spiritual roots. If they're acceptable, let me borrow your body. That way you'll live longer. Test your spiritual roots. Su Poman's heart stirred, but he resisted the urge to use his thermal vision, allowing Liu Baor to continue the spell. Liu Baor muttered something, formed a few hand seals, and a purple light emanated from her hand, striking the strange compass. Buzz! The compass suddenly vibrated, emitting a dazzling white light. Liu Baor flipped it over, and the dazzling white beam shot directly onto Su Poman's forehead. This process lasted for about an instant of time. Liu Baor withdrew the compass and held it flat in her hand. Su Poman also looked over curiously, and saw that the compass suddenly shone with tiny golden lights, followed by green, blue, fiery red, and yellow. Gold, wood, water, fire, and earth. You are really poorly endowed. It seems that I can only toy with you for a few days and then devour you. Liu Baor was speaking when her eyes were suddenly drawn to the changes in the compass. The 5 colored lights suddenly shone brightly, illuminating the entire sky above the compass with a variety of colors. Hidden within the colors were some dim lights that were easier to overlook. Purple, ice blue, and cyan. Could this be the legendary Chaos spiritual root, rare once in a million years? Liu Baor's eyes lit up with ecstasy as she sized Su Poman up and down, as if he were examining a rare treasure. Chaos spiritual root? Why do I feel like my cultivation speed isn't very fast? Su Poman asked. Hearing this, Liu Baor's face showed a thoughtful look, and then she seemed to have thought of something. She looked at the 3 dimmer lights and shadows on the compass again and said slowly. It turned out to be a pseudo-chaotic spiritual root. Because the 3 mutated spiritual roots are not perfect, the speed of cultivation will be slowed down. But fortunately, the later the pseudo-chaotic spiritual roots are, the faster the cultivation speed will be. It is said that in the later stage, it can reach half the cultivation speed of the real chaotic spiritual root. It is also the best spiritual root qualification except for several special spiritual roots. At the same time, pseudo-chaotic spiritual roots like you can cast the 5 element spells at will, and the combat effectiveness is also very strong. Haha, I have picked up a treasure. Although you are a man, I happen to have the secret method of refining yang and returning to yin. It is really God's help. Liu Baor's expression became more and more excited as she spoke. Her jade hands kept stroking Su Poman's body up and down, but the movements were very light, as if she was afraid of hurting him. So, my aptitude isn't so bad after all. Su Poman felt a slight surge of joy, but seeing the greed in Liu Baor's eyes, his heart was doused with dismay. I wonder if my thermal vision can kill her. If not, then it's truly dangerous. Su Poman wasn't entirely certain, so he hesitated. He waited until the old witch before him completely relaxed before finding an opportunity to strike. Furthermore, judging by her tone, his life wouldn't be in immediate danger. Liu Baor, somewhat carried away by her pride, a giant fox-like figure appeared on her body, its tail swaying behind her, revealing a portion of her demonic form. Good opportunity. Su Poman's eyes flashed red. Just as he was about to strike, he saw Liu Baor's demonic form suddenly retract into her body. She said somewhat angrily, I got a little carried away. I almost forgot there's a giant and cultivator nearby. If he senses the demonic aura, it'll be disastrous. With that, Liu Baor glanced toward the northwest with a hint of fear. Then, with a grab, Su Poman's vision blurred, and he felt the surrounding scenery rapidly recede. He couldn't help but glance down, only to find himself lifted into the air, misty clouds beneath his feet and a gigantic moon hanging overhead. Am I flying? Su Poman looked out, stunned by the beautiful night scene before him. The moonlight above the clouds was brilliant, stained silver by it, and the various colors of light and shadow blended together to form a breathtakingly beautiful scene. Liu Baor was currently piloting a feather fan-shaped magical instrument, soaring rapidly through the air. She seemed accustomed to this kind of scene, her expression remarkably calm. "Boy, you haven't seen the side of heaven, have you? Look too long, or you won't have the chance again," Liu Baor giggled, a hint of chill in her laughter. Su Poman looked up at that beautiful face, but his mind conjured up the image of an old witch who had cultivated for years. While beautiful in appearance, she possessed the heart of a vicious and cruel woman. Before long, Liu Baor and Su Poman landed in a spooky courtyard. Two enormous bitter willow trees stood at the gate. The gate was wide open, and the courtyard was shrouded in mist, making it impossible to identify the location. Su Poman's spiritual power was sealed, and in Liu Baor's eyes, he was just a mortal with no ability to resist, so she did not take any coercive measures. They entered the courtyard, surrounded by flowers and trees. And after passing through a long corridor, 3 large houses appeared in front of them. A white shadow rushed out from the big house in the middle. It was a huge white fox, the size of a calf, and looked very ferocious. It rushed to Su Poman and opened its mouth to bite his head. "Are those fellow Dalsts who said useless?" surprised he. Chapter 85 Imprisonment. "Brother, be patient. You can't eat this either. He's my precious treasure from my cultivation." Liu Baor raised her hand, stopping the white fox's movements. "Hurrah!" The white fox's eyes flashed with a fierce gleam of discontent, drool dripping from its mouth as it stared at Su Poman, as if it were gazing at a delicious prey. Seeing this look, Su Poman understood the meaning of "those not of my kind must have different hearts." The natural law of the survival of the fittest was vividly demonstrated across different tribes. Liu Baor stepped forward and gently stroked the white fox's head, whispering, "Don't worry, brother. I'll find you a tender human pig in a few days. He has a special physique, and I want to use him for cultivation. Be good, return to your room and cultivate quickly. Cultivate your demon spirit quickly so you can possess a human body and cultivate." "Yo-yo," the white fox murmured reluctantly, nudging Liu Baor's clothes. Then, in a flash, it disappeared back into the large room. Before Su Poman could react, Liu Baor reached out and grabbed him by the neck, leaping into the courtyard's vertical shaft. Beneath the shaft lay a hidden world, seemingly a training ground carved out from within. It was divided into rooms of varying sizes, some of which emanated a faint chill. Su Poman peeked in and saw coffins covered in icy blue talisman paper. He was led to the largest room, which contained a square platform. At each corner stood a jet-black wooden pillar. In the center lay a deep, rectangular pit, its surface covered in strange patterns. "Stay here for a few days. I'll return to deal with you once I've gathered the materials." Liu Baor licked her lips and, with a powerful throw, sent Su Poman plummeting into the pit. Then, she formed a magical seal above the pit and hurried away. All around him was darkness, save for the pale blue glow of talisman paper emanating from a few rooms. Su Poman activated his supervision, piercing the walls and seeing the frozen bodies within the coffins. Each of these bodies was a woman, with a faint lingering sense of life within them. Most of them looked fine, and now, naked before Su Poman's eyes, his heart raced slightly, a touch of embarrassment. In a wooden coffin in the outermost room, Su Poman discovered a female cultivator named Mo. She was also naked, her entire body sealed in a thick layer of ice. No spiritual energy remained within her, but Su Poman could see a faint heartbeat. She had likely not been killed, but merely stored there as a replacement. Although demon spirits cultivate at a relatively fast pace, their potential for success and failure is intertwined. Before reaching the nascent soul stage, demon spirits cannot leave their physical bodies for too long, lest their demonic energy leak out and attract powerful exorcists. Furthermore, demon spirits are essentially yin energy forms, which are suppressed by masculine energies. During thunderstorms, they are particularly susceptible to thunderstruck attacks. Therefore, demon spirits have a strong need for physical bodies. These frozen bodies are Liu Baor's spare containers. Su Poman looked up at the sealing spell above his head, a faint red light flickering in his eyes. He wanted to test the strength of the sealing spell to determine if his own attacks could harm the fox demon. A black light shield covered the pit, flickering with light. Red lasers, emitting scorching heat, pierced the shield directly. Swish! A fist-sized hole instantly appeared in the black shield, leaving a black hole the thickness of a little finger on the far wall. My thermal vision can actually break the sealing spell cast by a Foundation establishment demon cultivator. My chances of succeeding in a surprise attack should be quite high. Su Po's eyes gleamed with brilliance. After a brief moment of contemplation, a plan formed. While he could break through the black barrier and escape the shaft, Liu Baor's younger brother was guarding the compound. Even if I managed to kill him, I wouldn't be able to escape the pursuit of a Foundation establishment demon cultivator. He decided to take a gamble and use his thermal vision while Liu Baor was completely unprepared. If successful, this disaster would be completely averted. If not, then both of us would perish together. A cold glint flashed in Su Po's eyes. After some training, his mind had matured considerably, and he no longer held that weak attitude. He slowly closed his eyes and crouched in the pit, gathering his strength. After just using his thermal vision, he needed some time to recover. Time slowly passed. Liu Baor came down every night to bring him some food, as if she was afraid he'd starve. The food was truly extraordinary, mostly the flesh and blood of high-level exotic beasts, with a small portion also containing the flesh and blood of demonic beasts that had reached the key refining stage. Su Poman accepted all the food, devouring it all each time to replenish his ki. The only downside was that this place was underground, without sunlight, otherwise, he could have gained some strength by basking in the sun. One morning 3 days later, Liu Baor, looking somewhat pale, approached the deep pit, her face brimming with joy. I didn't expect the materials needed to transform yang into yin were so hard to find. I've put in a tremendous amount of effort to gather them. For the final piece, the extreme yin grass, I even had to fight a duel with the elders of the Blood Goose sect, but thankfully, now all the ingredients are complete. With a body imbued with pseudo-chaos spiritual roots, I have a hope of achieving the Great Dao. Liu Baor leisurely approached the pit, forming hand seals and performing a spell. With a single reach, she snatched up Su Poman, who had his eyes closed. Her spiritual sense swept over Su Poman's dantian, and she felt a sense of relief. She then probed, landing a finger on the area and casting another spell to seal his spiritual energy. With this double guarantee, Liu Baor finally felt completely at ease. Su Poman allowed her to do all this, his expression cold and indifferent. His gaze was like a bottomless well, revealing no trace of fear of death. Although Liu Baor was surprised by the human boy's calm reaction, she believed that a mere cultivator at the first level of ki refining wouldn't be able to cause any significant damage, even if he possessed a pseudo-chaos spiritual root. After all, talent only represents future potential, not current strength. Liu Baor cast a spell emitting an ki glow at a point on the platform, and the entire platform shook. Rumble. The terrain beneath Su Poman's feet suddenly shifted, slowly rising to form a wide, jade-colored stone bed. Chapter 86. Do you think I still have a chance? Su Poman was bound by chains, lying flat on the stone bed, unable to move. Liu Baor reached out and gently stroked Su Poman's cheek with the back of her hand, a faint, wicked smile on her face. This little face, I guess it wouldn't be too ugly as a girl. Do you think I still have a chance? Su Poman's calm voice suddenly rang out from the darkness, a hint of coldness laced in it. Liu Baor was stunned for a moment, then chuckled, her beautiful face brightening the entire room. Human boy, stop teasing me. Just die peacefully and rest in peace. Don't dream of anything. However, if you have any last wishes before you die, tell me. If I can fulfill them, I will not hesitate to fulfill them. Liu Baor's eyes curved with a smile, but her beautiful eyes held no trace of pity. She looked at Su Poman as if she were watching a fish on the chopping block. The butcher's knife was sharpened, and the pig's fate was sealed. Well, I do have a wish, and if it doesn't come true, I'll probably die with regret. Su Poman's face was filled with misery. He sighed, feigning resignation as he spoke slowly. Oh? Tell me, as long as it's not too much, I'll satisfy you. Even if you want some sex, that's fine, Liu Baor said teasingly, licking her lips with her tongue. Su Poman's face showed hesitation. He looked at Liu Baor seriously and said sheepishly, come closer. I have to whisper to you. This request is so embarrassing. Liu Baor's face was filled with curiosity. Seeing Su Poman's embarrassed expression, she suddenly understood. She slowly leaned forward and pretended to listen. Tell me, what is your wish? Su Poman looked at Liu Baor so close, a cruel smile playing on his lips. The fiery glow in his eyes made his eyes look like red-hot irons. The temperature suddenly rose, And by the time Liu Baoer realized something was wrong, it was too late. Two fiery red laser beams shot out from Su Poman's eyes at the speed of light, instantly piercing Liu Baoer's head. A strange, meaty aroma filled the air. Plop! Liu Baoer's body fell heavily to the ground, smoke still curling from the two charred holes in his skull. So easy to die, Su Poman muttered to himself curiously, a look of uncertainty on his face. Some of his chains had been severed at some point, and the broken ends were now slightly red, emitting a high temperature. Su Poman struggled hard to free himself, stepped off the stone bed, and surveyed his surroundings. Whoosh! A chilling wind suddenly blew into the room. A giant white fox figure condensed where Liu Baoer's body had been, but its body was pierced by two massive holes. The enormous demonic spirit, like a light bulb with poor electrical connections, flickered unpredictably, like a candle in the wind, poised to go out at any moment. Su Poman frowned at this, thinking things were indeed more complicated than they had been. Who are you, to unleash such a terrifying attack from your own flesh? The white fox spirit's face was filled with terror. Her demonic form had been severely damaged, more severe than a thunderbolt strike. A vast amount of demonic energy poured out from the two holes. At that moment, a delicate purse floated out from Liu Baoer's body. The white fox spirit gently rolled it up and pulled out a large collection of bottles and jars. Su Poman didn't reply, knowing the fox demon was stalling for time. There was no chance of recovery now, he'd take her while she was still. A red light flashed from his eyes once more. Two high-temperature laser beams shot out from Su Poman's eyes, instantly landing on the enormous white fox phantom. With terrifying speed, they swept across the body several times in succession. Sizzle, 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 the scorching heat instantly scorched the demon spirit's body. The white fox spirit let out a miserable wail, and more demonic energy leaked out of its body. Brother, save me! The white fox spirit had lost the ability to move, its body sliced into irregular pieces of light and shadow by the laser beams from its heat vision. A powerful will kept calling out. 14, 13, 12, Su Poman activated his supervision, and everything around him slowed down. He stared coldly at the entrance of the room, like an extremely patient old hunter. Whoosh! The sound of wind was heard. 2. From Su Poman's perspective, a white fox had slowly appeared at the entrance of the room. He counted down silently with incredible calmness. 1. The cooldown period ended, and with his supervision, the enormous white fox was already approaching. Less than half a meter separated Su Poman and the fox. He could even clearly see the wrinkles on the fox's stubborn nose. Its bared fangs and fierce gaze threatened to tear Su Poman to pieces. A cold look crossed Su Poman's eyes. With a flicker of his mind, a searing red light flashed within them once again. Die, you beast! His supervision was unleashed once more, two red beams like the gaze of death. The white fox barely had time to grunt before the fiery glow pierced through its body. Bang! Plop! Su Poman was thrown to the ground by the residual force of the giant fox's impact. He felt as if he'd been hit by a truck, and every muscle in his body felt a slight pain. I didn't expect this key refining stage demon beast's body to be so powerful. Its strength must be at least at the 10th level. Su Poman pushed the giant fox's body away from him with a powerful push. Then, he looked at the small half of the demon spirit trying to escape in the corner and sneered. I asked you before if I still had a chance. Unfortunately, you didn't give me a chance, and in the end, I won. Haha, you're in trouble, Master Su. Please spare my life. Now that my cultivation has been largely wasted, I swear I will never harm anyone again. The white fox demon spirit, now only about 1/3 of its original size, shivered in the corner. A weak and pitiful female voice rang out. However, in a corner that Su Poman couldn't see, the white fox demon spirit was constantly refining a pill that looked full of spiritual energy, silently accumulating strength. Let you go? What a joke. Su Poman noticed that the hate in his eyes had cooled, and his eyes flashed a dazzling red light again. Two fiery red lasers shot out, and in an instant, they were about to fall on the broken demonic body. Liu Baoer seemed to be prepared. She cast an illusion, leaving a series of phantoms in the place where she had been. The demonic body containing her complete soul was hidden in another dark corner. It's all the fault of that dead insect cultivator from the Blood Goose sect. He injured my previous physical body and caused my 5 senses to be desensitized. Otherwise, how could I have been ambushed by Immortal? Now my brother is dead. If I can escape, I will definitely seek revenge. Liu Baoer was filled with resentment. In a corner, she silently refined the power of the elixir to restore her demonic body. Chapter 87, Cutting the Grass Without Leaving the Roots. In the field, Su Poman's heat vision scanned several locations, but found it inflicted no damage to the demonic spirit. Instead, it ripped a crisscrossing pattern of holes in the wall behind him, from which faint green smoke emerged. Illusion. Su Poman activated his supervision and scanned the area, only to discover that the demonic spirit, begging for mercy, was merely a shadowy presence. He twisted his body and looked back. Oh no. He's found out. Liu Baor was shocked. She hadn't expected Su Poman to possess the ability to decipher illusions. This put her in a dilemma. With most of her demonic body destroyed, her strength plummeted. Without a body, she couldn't cast many spells. However, in her current state, she couldn't quickly occupy a new body. Demonic possession required careful preparation, and her body was already on the verge of collapse. If she forced the possession, she would likely be unable to withstand the backlash of the possession spell and collapse prematurely. One step forward means death, one step back also means death. Liu Baor was utterly panicked and at a loss. Is there really no way out? Liu Baor's demonic form kept moving through the rooms, trying to avoid Su Poman's sight. However, what she didn't know was that Su Poman, with his supervision activated, could even see through walls, making her hiding useless. Su Poman hadn't yet taken action because his heat vision ability hadn't fully cooled down. Forcing it would likely cause damage to his body. So he silently counted down the seconds, waiting for it to cool down before striking. Liu Baor noticed a faint red light in Su Poman's eyes, and a feeling of fear washed over her. No matter what, I have to give it a try, or I'll die. The demonic form sank into a frozen wooden coffin. The ice blue talisman paper quietly fell away, and the entire coffin shook violently. Bang! The coffin lid was blown away by a tremendous force, slamming heavily against the wall and shattering into several pieces. A delicate woman emerged from the coffin, her face a deadly expression. A dark green light flickered between her brows, and the power of demonic essence was constantly transforming her body. In a desperate attempt, Liu Baor planned to seize the body of one of the vessels, long cultivated, to overcome the immediate crisis. After the demonic spirit entered her body and unleashed the power of possession, she found her demonic body on the brink of collapse, like dancing on the edge of a cliff. A single misstep would result in annihilation, with no chance of reincarnation. This time, Liu Baor focused with utmost concentration, carefully controlling the demonic essence to transform the body's bones, muscles, and veins, making it suitable for the demonic spirit to reside. A dark green light spread from her head throughout her body. The delicate woman's flesh and blood were constantly wriggling, undergoing a dramatic transformation at a visible speed. Not only did her facial features transform into those of Liu Baor, but even her height and figure were constantly shifting back to her former self, becoming even more alluring and captivating. Hidden here, do you think you have a chance? Su Poman walked in from the doorway, gazing directly at Liu Baor within the coffin and coldly speaking, his eyes thick with murderous intent unconcealed. Upon noticing Su Poman approaching, Liu Baor halted her transformation and suddenly opened her eyes. An eerie and uncertain aura emanated from her. Although she possessed a foundation establishment stage, her strength was limited to that of a key refining stage. She had no desire to continue the fight, for a deep-seated fear of Su Poman had already grown within her. The two divine radiances had left her unable to evade or resist them, and now, with her strength significantly diminished, she had no chance of a confrontation. Young Master Su, are you really so cruel? Why don't you know how to be gentle with the women? As she spoke, Liu Baor unleashed her all-out charm. However, Su Poman's supervision was now fully activated. To him, all he saw was a skeleton inhabited by a demonic spirit, flirting and seducing him. Resisting the urge to deactivate his supervision, Su Poman's eyes flashed red, sweeping towards Liu Baor. A constant hissing sound echoed through the room, and crimson rays of light crisscrossed, occasionally piercing through the walls and radiating outside. A few minutes later, Su Poman emerged expressionless, fiddling with a translucent bead in his hand and clutching an exquisite embroidered purse. The seal within Su Poman's body had become ownerless, having been cast by its master. Therefore, the purple source wheel effortlessly transformed the sealing spell into energy points, and his key refining stage cultivation returned. Since a foundation establishment demon cultivator could leave behind beads like these, her brother must have some treasures imbued with spiritual energy. Su Poman quickly approached the white fox's corpse and began to feel around. After a while, finding nothing, his eyes flashed red, and with a slight shake of his head, the white fox was instantly cut into 4 or 5 pieces. The scene became extremely bloody. Desperate for energy points, Su Poman suppressed his stomach discomfort and reached into the bloody flesh. Soon, he felt an exceptionally hard bone, and a strange sound echoed in his mind. Ding! Energy detected. Convert to energy points. Su Poman's face lit up with joy, and he quickly confirmed the conversion. Conversion completed. You've gained 1,800 energy points. Wow! The fox siblings are truly kind. Just a key refining demon beast alone has so many energy points. It seems like perfecting my superhuman physique won't be difficult in the future, Su Poman said with a hint of smugness. I almost forgot about them. Su Poman suddenly remembered a group of frozen women waiting to be rescued. He wiped the remaining blood from his hands and walked straight into one of the small rooms. The outermost wooden coffin held the remains of a female cultivator named Mo. He gently removed the icy blue talisman from it and opened the lid. The female cultivator named Mo had her eyes closed, her heartbeat slowing. A dark green demonic aura clung to her brow, obscuring her consciousness. Su Poman extended a finger and gently tapped her brow, transforming the uncontrolled demonic aura into 10 energy points. With his super hearing, Su Poman could clearly hear the female cultivator's heartbeat gradually recovering, becoming faster and stronger. He was confident that she would awaken soon. Su Poman repeated his old trick, dispelling the demonic energy lingering in the Niwan palaces of the women still alive in the coffins one by one. Without waiting for them to awaken, he leaped out of the shaft, cleared the courtyard of any spiritual objects, and departed the eerie abode. I do good deeds without leaving my name behind. I'm such a good person. Su Poman hummed a little tune as he drifted away into the mist. The next chapter is Chapter 83. Because Chapter 83 was previously blocked and didn't pass the first review, I've republished an abridged version. The second review will take 15 business days, so the order of these 2 chapters is reversed. My apologies. Chapter 88 Xiandu City. Dongsheng Province, located in the easternmost part of Nanayu, ranks among the top 3 in terms of area. Its territory is mountainous and hilly, sparsely populated, and separated from Kaianchuan State by the uninterrupted Huayan Mountains. Xiandu City is built within these mountains, near the mountain gate of the Liang sect, one of Nanayu's 3 great sects. This vast city, founded by mortal cultivators, sits atop a broken mountain, perpetually shrouded in a vast cloud formation, making its true appearance invisible to mortals. From afar, the broken mountain resembles a towering pillar, its sheer height and sheer cliffs devoid of any support. Even a master skilled in kindling would struggle to ascend. Xiandu City is also home to a generation of mortals, some descendants of immortal cultivators, while others were brought to the broken mountain as slaves and have since established themselves there, multiplying and establishing a lifelong existence within this vast city. The greatest dream of these mortals is for their descendants to join the Liang sect and become immortal cultivators. This would bring honor to the family, change their fate, and allow them to escape the chaotic outer city and enter the inner city. Therefore, whenever the Liang sect opens its doors to recruit disciples, it becomes the bustling mountain worship festival in Xiandu City. Not only the city's mortals, but also individual cultivators and grandmasters from the Nanayu kingdom would rush to participate in the Liang sect's opening ceremony, hoping to pass the immortal rank trial and join this renowned and prestigious sect. Nanayu's 3 major sects all have deep ties, with intricate connections to the immortal sects of the superior immortal cultivation nations. They also boast numerous masters, abundant resources, and cultivation techniques far more powerful than those of ordinary immortal cultivation sects. If you ask which sect fire-type cultivators in Nanayu most desire to join, the answer is undoubtedly the Liang sect. Thousands of years of accumulation have imbued the Liang sect's prestige, like a towering mountain, into the hearts of every independent cultivator in Nanayu. Below Xiandu City, at the foot of Broken Mountain, a young man in a thin shirt gazed upwards, his entire body exuding a dusty air, as if he had traveled a long way to reach this point. Su Poman averted his gaze, surprised. Even my supervision can't penetrate that layer of mist. It seems there must be a formation there. I heard in the market that Xiandu City is just up there, and the Liang sect's founding ceremony will be held there. Let's go up there first. He patted the dusty cloth bag at his waist and pulled out a green talisman. With a burst of spiritual energy from his fingertips, he activated it and pressed it firmly against his thigh. A gentle breeze suddenly appeared, and Su Poman felt as light as a feather. He planted his legs on the ground, exerting a gentle push as he began to walk across the sheer cliffs as if on flat ground. The storage bag left by Liu Baor contained many items, secret techniques, spirit stones, and other miscellaneous items. Su Poman traded some of the items he didn't need for spirit stones at the market, and then used them to purchase some practical talisman paper. He immediately bought 2 stacks of 12 of these life-saving wind-attributed lightness talismans. Since the journey had been relatively smooth, he hadn't used any of them. This was his first time using this kind of talisman paper. Before long, the sheer rock face, seemingly unattainable to mortals, was easily scaled by Su Poman. After passing through a thick layer of fog, the view suddenly opened up. With a single bound, Su Poman leaped onto the welcoming stone platform, revealing a towering, massive city. He stood on a smooth platform. A structure resembling a memorial archway stood at the edge of the cliff face, seemingly serving as a gate. Many such structures dotted the surrounding cliff faces. Beneath each welcoming gate stood a smooth platform, each equally spaced, staggered along the cliff face, stretching all the way to the end of Broken Mountain. Xiandu City, built upon the mountainside, nestled against the Huayan Mountains, towered many times taller than any mortal city, creating a truly magnificent sight. The gates of Xiandu City were over 10 feet high, appearing taller than even the walls of Puguo Prefecture. Approaching them evoked a sense of immensity. Su Poman adjusted his clothes and headed towards the gate. From time to time, Foundation establishment cultivators, wielding magical instruments, flew overhead, entering Xiandu City directly from above. Key refining cultivators and mortal warriors were forced to wait in line to enter. There are 2 teams at the city gate. The main gate is reserved for immortal cultivators, while the side gate is open to mortals. At this time, there is a long queue there, among which there are many old and frail grandmasters. Their energy and blood have begun to decline, but they are unwilling to be buried in the loess. Therefore, they basically come to participate in every founding ceremony of the Liang sect, hoping to try their luck and be able to join the immortal sect to seek a way to prolong their life. Have you heard? The immortal rank trial of Liang sect this time may be more difficult than in previous years. What do you mean, Alice? It's because those immortal cultivation families have taken up the quotas. They can join Liang sect without the trial, but the number of new disciples that Liang sect recruits each time is limited. With so many reserved quotas, the immortal rank trial will naturally be difficult. I'm so unlucky. I thought I could try my luck this time. I failed last time after reaching the 582nd level. It seems that I should just participate this time to test the results of my practice in recent years. Alice, my lifespan is not much longer, and the difficulty of the immortal rank trial has increased. What should I do? The crowd was whispering. Su Poman's super hearing was always on, helping him collect some useful information. Since the birth of his spiritual consciousness within his spiritual altar, the side effects of his super hearing have been much less severe. Even in chaotic environments for extended periods, his brain no longer feels fatigued. Su Poman believes that perhaps the strength of his spirit has enhanced his computing ability, helping him proactively filter out a large portion of unimportant information without burdening his brain. The queue at the main gate was small, consisting solely of cultivators in the key refining stage. Therefore, Su Poman didn't linger long at the gate, handing over a low-grade spirit stone to enter the city. The city's spacious streets, paved with jade-like slabs, appeared exceptionally clean and tidy. No ordinary vendors or beggars roamed the streets, leaving the main thoroughfares a forbidding presence. Patrols of Liang sect disciples would pass by from time to time, responsible for maintaining public order. Xiandu City boasts auction houses, street markets, large trade fairs, material shops, weapon refining shops, talisman paper shops, and treasure houses. These venues are all under the jurisdiction of the city lord's mansion. The annual rent alone is a substantial income, and Xiandu City also takes a cut of certain large transactions, another eye-watering source of revenue. Unlocking this chapter is too difficult, and it needs to be reviewed again in 15 business days. I can't wait any longer, so I'll just post a new, abridged chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89: The 9 Realms of Immortality. While this action seemed somewhat overbearing, no one dared to object. This was because Xiandu City's city lord was a false 10-level elder from the Liang sect. Meanwhile, disciples within the Liang sect earned extra income by taking on routine patrol and escort duties at the city lord's mansion. Technically, Xiandu City was considered an outlying branch of the Liang sect, so any faction seeking to interfere would have to carefully consider their own actions. Su Poman strolled along Xiandu City's main street, feeling like a country bumpkin. The skyscrapers on Blue Star couldn't compare to the grandeur and majesty of the buildings here. The green agate and glass-like jadeite inlaid on the eaves had already made him a bit dizzy. He figured if he could snatch a piece and sell it back on Blue Star, the quality alone would net him tens of millions, enough to buy a car or a house. However, what's prized in the mortal realm is merely a slightly prettier ornament in the world of immortal cultivation, a world of difference compared to the treasures in the treasure house. As he walked, Su Poman used his super hearing to gather information, gaining a general understanding of Xiandu City. He first went to the Ascension Square near the city lord's mansion to obtain a badge, which would allow him to participate in the immortal level trial at the Liang sect's founding ceremony. If he successfully passed the trial, he would be officially enrolled in the Liang sect, becoming a member. His future cultivation journey would be much smoother than that of casual cultivators. Earlier on their journey, Su Poman had been torn between joining the 5-element sect or the Liang sect. However, after much research, he finally decided on the Liang sect. He felt that both the cultivation methods and the internal management atmosphere of the Liang sect were perfectly suited to his development. Compared to the Fiery Sun sect's herding sheep management style, the 5-element sect's management is more rigorous. Not only are there mandatory sect missions, but there's also a brutal elimination system, much like the Great Whale Gang's Azure Dragon Hall, which practices a survivor-takes-all model. After the great waves sift through the sand, only the elite remain. Su Poman harbors numerous secrets, making the Fiery Sun sect a better choice. The fair sun in its name also perfectly suits his constitution, subconsciously instilling a sense of belonging to the sect. After considering all these factors, he chose to join the Fiery Sun sect to begin his journey of cultivation. Su Poman found an inn and booked a room, intending to cultivate for a few more days before the opening ceremony, aiming to surpass his current realm. For the past 3 months, despite his relentless practice, the early stages of his pseudo-chaos spiritual roots were progressing at a snail's pace, comparable to that of useless 5-element spiritual roots. He expended vast quantities of spirit stones to reach perfection in the first level of the key refining stage. Later, Su Poman stopped using spirit stones for cultivation, feeling that converting them into energy points would provide a greater boost to his combat power than using them for cultivation. Therefore, aside from a portion of the spirit stones he kept for daily use, he converted all of the remaining spirit stones into energy points and stored them in the purple source wheel. Through his readings of the records of cultivation, Su Poman knew that various special spiritual entities existed in the world of immortal cultivation, and their possessors were prone to causing trouble. Although he now had over 10,000 energy points stored, he wasn't in a hurry to use them. The ability to access these 10,000 energy points would undoubtedly significantly enhance his physical condition. Upon joining the sect, he would be tested for his spiritual roots and physical condition. While he wasn't sure if his superhuman physique would be detected, he was still concerned that his exceptional physique might attract the attention of those old monsters. Therefore, he decided to use the accumulated energy points to draw on his abilities after joining the sect. Currently, while his physical condition far surpassed that of an average warrior, it wasn't abnormal. Furthermore, the enhanced attributes were unrelated to his spiritual power, so they shouldn't be detected as abnormal. Su Poman took a deep breath in his room, preparing to begin practicing the mountain-moving body refining technique. Slowly extending his spiritual sense, he was surprised to discover that the density of the spiritual energy here was even higher than elsewhere, perhaps 2 or 3 times higher. It truly deserves to be the home of an immortal sect. This concentration alone is enough to make casual cultivators envious. No wonder the inns in this immortal capital are so expensive. 10 low-grade spirit stones a night is worth it. Su Poman closed his eyes and diligently practiced his technique, using his spiritual sense to draw the spiritual energy from the heavens and earth, drawing it into his body for refinement. A silent night passed. The next day, after a night of practice, Su Poman not only showed no signs of fatigue, but instead appeared radiant, a hint of joy on his face. Last night, I sensed a hint of a breakthrough. I believe it won't be long before I reach the second level of key refining. Su Poman felt a slight pain in his teeth. He had expended so many spirit stones to perfect the first level of key refining. His aptitude was already quite poor. However, according to the information he had found, with each breakthrough to a major realm, the cultivation speed of those with pseudo-chaos spiritual roots would increase significantly. After 9 such breakthroughs, they could reach half the speed of those with true chaos spiritual roots, far exceeding the cultivation speed of those with celestial spiritual roots by 30 to 40 times. Reaching the Mahayana stage wouldn't take too long, so Su Poman felt his future was still relatively bright. There were 9 major realms in the cultivation of immortals: key refining, foundation establishment, golden core, nascent soul, spiritualization, fusion, void realm, tribulation crossing, and Mahayana. After that, one would ascend to the immortal realm and achieve a true immortal body. Ordinary cultivators generally possessed mixed spiritual roots, while those with celestial spiritual roots were considered geniuses among geniuses, their cultivation speed far exceeding that of those with mixed spiritual roots. Barring any casualties and with sufficient opportunity, reaching the tribulation crossing stage before their lifespan expired was practically guaranteed. The legendary chaos spiritual roots, from the outset, were only slightly slower than super spiritual roots. Roughly 70 to 80 times faster than celestial spiritual roots. While celestial spiritual roots could cultivate to the tribulation crossing stage in 100,000 years, chaos spiritual roots would only need 1,500 years at most. Furthermore, crossing the tribulation would not be too difficult for those with such aptitude. The difference was so great that it would drive ordinary practitioners mad with envy. While Su Poman didn't possess the legendary chaos spiritual root, his pseudo-chaos spiritual root's cultivation speed in the later stages was no less impressive. After 9 transformations, he could reach the speed of a true chaos spiritual root, roughly half the speed of a true chaos spiritual root. This was a crushing advantage compared to ordinary practitioners. At this moment, he only hoped that the spirit detecting plate in the Liang sect was really as bad as Liu Baor said, and was not as accurate as the strange compass she left behind. If his pseudo-chaos spirit root qualifications were really detected, it would definitely cause a violent shock in the world of immortal cultivation. The old monsters in the upper-class cultivation countries would not be able to withstand such a huge temptation and come to snatch his body. Chapter 90. Along the street. His only hope now was to reach the foundation establishment stage, elevating his cultivation aptitude to a higher level. Otherwise, his tortoise-like pace of cultivation would surely drive him to the brink of collapse. It's nice to lean against a big tree for shade. Large sects have numerous spiritual veins and abundant spiritual energy, so cultivation naturally progresses faster than in the mortal realm. Perhaps this is why immortal cultivators are so rare in mortal realms. Su Poman opened his eyes and exhaled. The red lines on his chest slowly faded beneath his skin. He muttered to himself, "Today I'm going to the market to broaden my horizons. I can't always stay in the inn practicing." He changed into clean clothes and tossed the dirty ones aside. Su Poman missed his 2 adorable maids. He planned to return to Poo State sometime and bring them over to take care of him. Otherwise, he'd be hard-pressed to get used to it. In an age without fully automatic washing machines, washing and hanging clothes was always a hassle for a grown man out and about. The morning air was slightly chilly. Su Poman left the inn and turned off the main street onto a secondary thoroughfare. There were already quite a few people setting up stalls, selling anything but ordinary goods, talismans, magical instruments, and materials. The entire street was part of the 7th Ward Market, where many vendors rented their stalls for years. Each stall was engraved with a small formation granted by Xiandu City. Any attempt to steal the items would trigger a warning from the formation, attracting Xiandu City's law enforcement team. Therefore, trading here was relatively safe, without the risk of murder or theft. Alternatively, those seeking a temporary stall could pay rent to Xiandu City's Foreign Affairs Square and set up a vacant stall on the street to sell their wares. However, most low-level cultivators opted to sell their belongings in the free trade zone south of the city, as it offered a private trading platform without rent. However, the market was mixed, and genuine treasures could easily be targeted by unscrupulous cultivators, making it a relatively unsafe environment. Each stall on Fangshi Street was covered by a transparent shield, allowing the naked eye to clearly see what was inside, or one could peer through it with spiritual sense to examine the items more closely. The stall owners were shrouded in a layer of black mist, making their figures invisible. However, communication was smooth, allowing for transactions to be made normally or through the more discreet method of telepathy. The stalls displayed a dazzling array of goods, including elixirs, secret manuals, talismans, materials, magical instruments, and even bizarre items, some of which the stall owners couldn't pinpoint. Su Poman was dazzled by the sheer variety of items he had only seen in illustrations in the records of cultivation, but now, seeing them in person, he became deeply intrigued by the various gadgets. Walking down the street to the end, Su Poman inspected nearly every item on either side, only to indulge his curiosity. He didn't even dare ask for prices, simply because he was short on cash. Aside from a few emergency spirit stones, all the rest had been converted into energy points. Devourer, for her Foundation establishment demon cultivator, is so poor. Her storage bag is filled with junk. A few secret manuals and that strange compass are of some value. But the rest isn't worth much in spirit stones. If all else fails, why not sell Mengshan's storage bag? Su Poman had previously seen a bottle of the yellow dragon pill, which could help key refining cultivators break through, and was tempted. However, the pill itself was priced at 28 low-grade spirit stones. He only had a little over 50 spirit stones on hand, and he still had to save for accommodation. If he bought the pill, he might not be able to stay in Xianji City. The Liang sect's founding ceremony was set to begin in a few days, and missing out would be a real loss. After much deliberation, Su Poman decided to find a stall to sell the dusty storage bag Mengshan had left behind. He was now using Liu Bao's more delicate and compact storage bag, which held approximately 10 cubic meters and was much more practical than Mengshan's. "Excuse me, are you selling anything here?" Su Poman asked, approaching a rather quiet stall. A moment of silence emanated from the dark mist, before a hoarse voice rang out, "Brother, if you have anything, show it to me. I want to sell this low-grade storage bag." "See how much it's worth in spirit stones." Su Poman pulled a dusty cloth bag from his pocket and passed it over through the area above the stall. A slender, white hand emerged from the mist, took the bag, and then handed it back. A low-grade storage bag, undamaged, for 20 low-grade spirit stones. "Want to sell it?" the hoarse voice echoed from the mist again. Su Poman struggled to connect the voice with the owner of the white hand. He suspected the stall owner had used some secret voice-changing technique to prevent others from identifying him. "All right, 20 spirit stones, I'll pay." Su Poman frowned, then agreed after a moment's thought, handing over the storage bag. He had never been good at bargaining, and while the price was a bit low, he didn't want to waste time haggling with other stall owners. The vendor in the black fog took the storage bag and pondered for a moment before explaining. "A storage bag like yours would normally fetch at least 30 low-grade spirit stones, but your origins are somewhat problematic. Look at the fly-sized ghost face embroidered on the bottom of the bag. It must have originally belonged to a ghost spirit sect cultivator. Independent cultivators don't want to offend a sect, so the market is low. Therefore, your bag's resale value will be lower." "I see. Thank you for your understanding." Su Poman's face lit up with enlightenment, and he quickly clasped his fists in a salute. "Here are your spirit stones." Whoosh! A purple bag flew out of the black fog. Su Poman reached out and grabbed it. A quick scan with his spiritual sense confirmed the correct number of spirit stones, and he placed it directly into his arms. Just then, a broad-faced, middle-aged man in red came over. He glanced at the items on the stall and asked, "Shopkeeper, how much is that statue?" Su Poman followed his finger and saw a dark, half-foot-tall statue depicting a strange golem. It had 8 arms, each forming a different spell, and sat cross-legged in a lotus position. Its face was grime-covered, making it blurry, but a single blood-red eye could be vaguely discerned between its brows. What a strange statue. It looks quite demonic, Su Poman thought to himself. Thanks to fellow Daoists Mama 1234, Kiyawanai, and others for their generous donations. Chapter 91 Yellow Dragon Pill. 300 low-grade spirit stones, no bargaining. A price rang out from the black fog, startling Su Poman. "Stall owner, we don't even know the origins of this thing, and yet you're asking so much?" The red-clothed man's face flickered with displeasure. "It's up to you to buy it or not. If not, go look somewhere else." "You?" The red-clothed man's eyes glared, about to explode in anger. But then something clicked in his mind. He gritted his teeth and said gravely, "Okay, I'll buy it." With a flick of his hand, he tossed a stuffed cloth bag over. As if controlled by someone, the black statue on the stall flew out of the formation and landed in his hands. Object control. The red-clothed man's face lit with surprise. After carefully examining the black statue in his hands, he placed it in his storage bag and left. Su Poman watched the hurriedly departing figure with a strange feeling. He nodded to the stall owner and quickly left the area. At the end of Fangshi Street, turning west, lies the main street, lined with shops. Here, not only are there shops selling various materials, talisman paper, and magical instruments, but also large-scale stores like Bebeolao and Zinbeolao, offering a comprehensive range of goods. While yellow dragon pills are cheaper in Fangshi Street, their quality cannot be guaranteed. Only from reputable shops like these can one be assured of their quality, as the pills are carefully evaluated by alchemists, ensuring no waste. Su Poman entered the 3-story building, spent 30 spirit stones on a small bottle of yellow dragon pills, and excitedly returned to the inn. Closing the door, Su Poman sat cross-legged on the bed and pulled a small jade vial from his storage bag. "I hope this pill can help me break through to the second level of key refining." With anticipation, Su Poman uncorked the bottle and carefully poured a round, earthy yellow pill from the jade vial. The pill, about the size of a longan seed, exuded a unique aroma. Just the smell of it made Su Poman feel his spiritual energy flow faster. He swallowed, and the yellow dragon pill melted in his mouth. A warm current flowed through his throat and into his stomach. A burning sensation rose from his danshan. Su Poman quickly focused his mind and began to practice the mountain-moving body refining technique. The medicinal power was rapidly refined into spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy of the surrounding heaven and earth was continuously absorbed into his body. Time passed by minute. The yellow dragon pill's effect lasted for an hour. The bottle contained 12 pills, enough for Su Poman to practice for a whole day. On his bed in his bedroom, Su Poman, shirtless, a red line constantly shimmered, and the inner energy around him grew thicker and thicker at a speed imperceptible to the naked eye. Cultivation is tedious, and an unfocused mind compromises its effectiveness. Therefore, some sects require children to undergo a period of hardship before they can embark on the path of cultivation. Unlike ordinary people, Su Poman relishes this tedious practice, like a dedicated practitioner, striving to enhance his cultivation and constantly improve his strength through every moment. Every point of improvement in his cultivation serves as a boost, fueling a stronger desire to reach new heights. In fact, this obsession formed at a very young age. He gravitated towards leveling up games, spending days and nights playing monster killing and leveling up games. Every time his experience pool filled and his character leveled up in a flash of light, Su Poman felt a surge of excitement, and he would then plunge into the tedious grind of monster killing. Now, experiencing the thrill of leveling up firsthand, Su Poman was undoubtedly even more excited, allowing him to endure the loneliness and cultivate endlessly in his room. In today's world of immortal cultivation, while everyone strives hard, they often view the process as a form of torture. Those who endure the loneliness and quiet cultivation are often called hard-working cultivators. This is like the resistance of elementary school students on Blue Star to learning. Although they have to study, they still prefer skipping classes to play games. However, if someone were to force students to play the same game daily at school, with no chance of studying, they might become bored and become addicted to games. No one would even want to play games, and some might even resort to studying secretly. Later generations would also develop an inexplicable resistance to this practice. A large portion of cultivators strive for their lifespan because of the threat of longevity. Without the threat of death, many would likely lose their desire to cultivate. The threat of death is like a stern teacher, constantly pressuring and forcing cultivators to cultivate and break through to new realms to avoid the end of their lifespan. This pressure can inexplicably create a rebellious resistance to the process of cultivation, which is why many immortal sects prioritize perseverance. Those with great perseverance can cultivate relentlessly, and given the right opportunity, they can often reach profound depths. Conversely, those gifted cultivators who can't resist the solitude of cultivation often waste their time on unnecessary pursuits, severely limiting their future potential. By the time they finally realize their potential, it's too late. According to the records of cultivation, cultivators who reach the foundation establishment stage can add 500 years to their lifespan, those at the golden core stage to 1,000 years, and those at the nascent soul stage are even more formidable. extending their lifespan by 8,000 to 10,000 years, 100 times longer than an average person. Millions of years are enough to witness the rise and fall of civilizations. Experiencing the vicissitudes of life and witnessing the prosperity of the human world can profoundly transform one's mindset. For Su Poman, lifespan was a relatively easy matter. He possessed a purple source wheel, and even considering his complete Superman physique, his lifespan was unmatched by ordinary cultivators. Therefore, his diligent cultivation wasn't driven by pressure from a limited lifespan. Unlike the people of this world, he had fantasized about cultivating immortals since childhood, and now that he could experience it firsthand, he was naturally highly motivated. Su Poman spent an entire day, 12 hours, confined to his room. The spiritual energy in his dantian increased significantly, and his inner ki became much more powerful. Su Poman slowly opened his eyes, a hint of disappointment in his eyes. He sighed, even a bottle of yellow dragon pills hasn't helped me break through. How can this bottleneck be so strong? Su Poman felt a pang of bitterness in his heart, muttering to himself, at this rate, I'm stuck in the ki refining stage forever, right? That would be embarrassing. It's too difficult for this pseudo-chaos spiritual root to transform once. My starting aptitude is so low, and cultivation is simply too difficult. Improving cultivation level would boost motivation, but if no level could be raised, no matter how much practice he did, it would dampen Su Poman's confidence. Never mind, let it be. I have the purple source roulette anyway. If cultivating immortality doesn't work out, I can pursue the superhuman path and the cultivation methods of other powerful beings in the heavens and myriad realms. I'll just have to draw on some to replenish my mental and magic resistance, Su Poman consoled himself. He stretched his muscles, and a crackling sound echoed through his body, like a series of popping beans. Standing up, Su Poman decided to go out for a walk to ease his depression. Fellow Taoists, I have used up all my saved drafts. I have been a bit busy at work recently. I will try my best to complete the update with both quality and quantity. I estimate that I will get off work earlier next week, so I will have time to save more drafts. Don't worry about it being abandoned. The performance of this book is slowly improving, and I will keep writing until it is finished. Don't be surprised if there is no update tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I will definitely find time to write when I have time. There have been too many things to do in the past 2 days. I have been so busy that I have a headache. It was 11 o'clock when I got home and washed up. I really can't do it. Forcing myself to write will definitely affect the quality. I went home early every day in the past 2 weeks, but I didn't write more because I had saved drafts. Now that the task has come, I really regret it. Don't worry, I will make up for it when I have time in the future. I keep my word. Chapter 92 Opening Ceremony. 3 days later, the entire city of Xiandu was abuzz with activity. Many mortal warriors entered the city, and even some cultivators, unable to afford inns, chose to arrive on this day. The streets suddenly became denser. Most warriors kept a low profile, for within Xiandu, there were many individuals they could not afford to offend. They gathered in small groups and walked cautiously along the streets, fearing they might accidentally provoke a high-ranking immortal and be summoned by patrols to be expelled from the city. Shops along the road were decorated with lights and colorful banners hung at their doorsteps. The Liang sect was holding its grand opening ceremony today, marking the busiest mountain worship festival of the year in Xiandu. Many mortals lived in the outer city, and on this day, children of appropriate age would don new clothes prepared by their parents and prepare to travel to the city lord's mansion for the spiritual testing ceremony. If a lucky test revealed the presence of spiritual roots, the family would instantly ascend to heaven and be able to move into the inner city. In addition to these mortal children, there are also children sent by families cultivating immortals. These children generally have a designated quota, having undergone a spirit testing ritual within their families to confirm their spiritual roots. Their presence here is merely a formality, and they are generally accepted into the Liang sect without issue. In addition to these children over the age of 5, the Ascension Square in the City Lord's Mansion also offers immortal rank trials. Mortal warriors who are capable of passing the trials and possess spiritual roots are eligible to join the Liang sect. Furthermore, independent cultivators can also take the immortal rank trials, but the requirements are more stringent than for warriors. Mortal warriors only need to pass the first 1,000 immortal ranks, while key refining cultivators must pass the second 1,000. After the first 1,000th rank, The Immortal rank formation automatically adjusts the pressure based on each individual's cultivation level, with higher levels increasing the intensity of the pressure. In comparison, the difficulty for independent cultivators to join the Liang sect is no less than that for warriors. Furthermore, independent cultivators must undergo the inquiry formation to verify that they are not spies planted by other factions. When Su Poman arrived at the city lord's mansion, 3 long lines had already formed at the entrance of the Ascension Square. The longest of these was comprised of children from mortal families, each one voluntarily forming a single line under the guidance of their parents. Another line consisted of a smaller group of elegantly dressed children, numbering only about 50 at a glance. Each was accompanied by a family elder. Most of these children were accomplished and distinguished, their faces brimming with undisguised pride, their gazes tinged with disdain towards the mortal children. They were the best of their families, considered the chosen disciples of the Liang sect. The last line consisted of independent cultivators and mortal warriors. The independent cultivators stood in the front, while the warriors stood at the back, keeping a considerable distance from the independent cultivators. This was the line destined for the immortal stage trial. Su Poman swiftly approached, reaching the very back of the line of cultivators. The old man at the back, with a simple, quaint face, tactfully stepped back, as if fearing to provoke Su Poman. "Fellow Taoist, you are here to participate in the immortal level trial as well, right? I'm Nai Rongchuan, nice to meet you. We will be fellow disciples from now on, so we should be as close as possible." Su Poman had just stood still when the fat guy in the green robe in front of him turned around and greeted him enthusiastically. He had a very funny look, with a pair of bright little eyes under his short and thick eyebrows, and his baggy green robe made him look like a clown on the stage. "My name is Su Poman, nice to meet you, fellow Taoist." Su Poman smiled and clasped his fists in return. "Where are you from, fellow Taoist? Your accent doesn't sound like you're from Dongsheng province, so it's fellow Taoist Su. I've come from Songhan province, after a long journey. This time, I'm determined to become a disciple of the Liang sect. I heard the spiritual energy within the Liang sect is incredibly rich, and 1 day of cultivation there is equivalent to 4 or 5 days elsewhere." From the moment Nai Rongchuan opened his mouth, he began to recount his experiences to Su Poman, recounting them like a stream of beans. Su Poman listened patiently, occasionally interjecting. From Nai Rongchuan's words, he learned some interesting stories about the world of immortal cultivation. Not long after, the gates of the city lord's mansion opened, and several cultivators dressed in the crimson robes of the Liang sect emerged. They greeted and registered each person, and then, under the guidance of a special person, entered the city lord's mansion. At this point, everyone's mood grew tense. The children's parents and elders all withdrew from the group, waving goodbye at the entrance. The group ahead moved quickly, and soon reached Su Poman. He respectfully handed over the wooden plaque he had received a few days ago. The stern-faced disciple of the Liang sect waved his hand impatiently, signaling him to hurry in. The immortal trial took place at the easternmost side of the city lord's mansion, where the immortal stage formation was located. Led by a guide, Su Poman and the others walked along a broad avenue over 5 meters wide. The scenery within the city lord's mansion was magnificent, with white jade corridors connecting the shimmering buildings. In the sunlight, the complex shone brightly, drawing the attention of newcomers. After separating from the group of children, they arrived at the easternmost side of the city lord's mansion, where a magnificent gray-white stone staircase was carved into the towering cliff. There were 2,000 stone steps, each 1 foot high and 3 feet wide. Flanked by half-human-high stone walls, these were constructed from black slabs carved with strange patterns. The immortal stage trial took place here. For mortal warriors, this primarily tested their innate strength, ki, blood, perseverance, and potential. After the 1000th step, the focus was on testing the purity of a cultivator's spiritual energy, willpower, and physical strength. Those who passed the immortal stage trial were considered the best of their level. As one of the 3 great sects of Nanayu, the Liang sect maintained a very high barrier to entry. There were also bone age requirements for independent cultivators. Even if an older cultivator managed to pass the immortal stage trial, they would still not meet the Liang sect's entry requirements. The group arrived at the square below the stone steps, where several disciples dressed in Liang sect attire were already waiting. "Wait here for now. Refrain from making any noise. The arrival of the elders will activate the immortal stage formation." A young man in red, emanating a faint spiritual aura, stepped forward and spoke loudly. Yes, everyone agreed, expressing their understanding. This immortal level formation is not simple. Once activated, cultivators like us will feel a spiritual pressure. The higher the level of cultivation, the stronger the spiritual pressure. That's why I haven't broken through and am stuck at the peak of the second level of key refining. Even so, my chances of passing this immortal level trial are less than 60%, Nirongchuan whispered solemnly. He then made a face at Su Poman and asked tentatively, I wonder if fellow Taoist Su is confident of passing this level. Chapter 93, Ascension. This is my first time participating in this immortal trial, so, Su Poman touched his nose, hesitantly saying, I understand. Fellow Taoist Su, don't panic. I see you're not that old. Even if you can't make it this time, just prepare a few more times, Nirongchuan consoled with a smile. At that moment, several streaks of light streaked across the sky. Su Poman looked up and saw 3 elders in loose red robes, wielding magical instruments, flying in from afar. Elders are here with a long salutation, everyone present bowed their heads in greeting. Boom. 3 powerful spiritual pressures surged from the sky, a pressure felt only by cultivators. Many of those with less advanced cultivation paled under the overwhelming pressure. 3 figures descended onto the central stands of the square. In the center was a tall, thin old man with white hair and a youthful face. Next to him stood a dark-faced old man with a red wine gourd hanging from his waist. On the other side was a fat-faced old man with a potbelly holding a purple fan. As they landed on the stands, the spiritual pressure surrounding them suddenly subsided. Many in the crowd breathed a sigh of relief. Nirongchuan, standing beside Su Poman, wiped the sweat from his forehead and telepathically transmitted to Su Poman, Foundation establishment cultivators are truly powerful. Their spiritual energy surges like a river. The spiritual pressure alone is unbearable for us key refining cultivators. Su Poman didn't feel the pressure particularly intense, only a slight sinking sensation. In reality, it had no effect on him. However, to conceal his uniqueness, he feigned an effort to resist the spiritual pressure. We have to activate this formation ourselves every time. What a hassle, the dark-faced old man remarked with a hint of dissatisfaction, grabbing the wine gourd at his waist and taking a swig of the crimson, magma-like liquor. Heat yellow flames erupted from his nostrils and mouth, causing the many warriors in the audience to gasp in surprise. Old Shan, stop drinking and focus on business. You're always grumbling, and you're just wasting our time training. A chubby-faced old man nearby couldn't help but scoff. HMPH, Fatty Gia, you only know how to tinker with your crappy refining furnace. How could you possibly understand the taste of my flowing fire rock heart wine? Shan Yankee spat softly, his eyes squinting. Alright, you two stop bickering the moment you meet. Activate the formation first. It's getting late, the tall, thin old man interrupted. As he spoke, the 2 men glared at each other, then grumbled to silence. Activate the formation. The tall, thin old man pulled a cocky formation flag from his storage bag. His fingers, like a phantom, continuously cast spells on the flag. The other 2 Foundation establishment elders each pulled out a formation flag. Their hands moved constantly, the flags hovering in the air, emitting a continuous, rapid humming sound in a brilliant, earth-yellow light. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The tall, thin elder's formation flag flew first, followed by the flags held by the dark-faced old man and the elder surnamed Gia. The 3 formation flags transformed into streams of light, piercing the top of the gray-white stone steps and disappearing in a flash of light. The mortal warriors in the stands watched this scene with wide eyes, their desire to cultivate immortality growing stronger. Boom! A loud noise echoed from the cliff. And then layers of earth-yellow light and shadow emerged from the stone steps, enveloping the entire immortal staircase. The immortal stage array has been activated. Please enter the formation in order. Those who pass can place the immortality token on the stone tablet at the top of the mountain. Those who fail will be escorted down, a disciple of the Liang sect shouted, and behind him, red-robed monks emerged and began to arrange for everyone to enter the formation. In a flash of light and shadow, one by one, the trial takers entered the immortal stage. Su Poman was in the middle of the group. Watching the monks in front of him climb with ease, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. As soon as he entered the formation, a pressure from all sides hid him, but it was as if it didn't exist. He lifted his leg and stepped onto the second stone step. The pressure on the second stone step increased significantly, but it was still very easy for him. The monks beside him were also moving forward quickly. The pressure of the first 1,000 stone steps was quite challenging for warriors, but it was not so strong for immortal cultivators. They all possessed spiritual energy, which could form a spiritual shield on their bodies to isolate the pressure. However, releasing spiritual energy is still quite costly for key refining cultivators, so they climbed quickly, not wasting too much time on the first 1,000 steps. Conserving spiritual energy was crucial for clearing the subsequent stone steps. A faint red aura shield rose around Su Poman, and he climbed at an accelerated pace, leaving many mortal warriors behind. This red aura attracted considerable attention. Its fiery red color was particularly eye-catching. The Liang sect disciples outside the formation began to discuss the situation. Huh? He's actually a body cultivator. Strange. It's extremely rare for casual cultivators to choose body cultivation. I guess body cultivation is the only path to choose. Although body cultivators are powerful among their peers, it's too hard. It takes a long time to temper the body. Once the body can't meet the needs of it will cause the to riot, which is a very scary thing. I heard that there was a body cultivator senior who neglected the cultivation of the body. The increased too quickly, causing all the ki and blood to merge into the spiritual power. The end was simply miserable. I heard that it is so painful when the refining treasure enters the body in the later stage. Ordinary people can't accept it. I'm afraid only the nerves of body cultivators can bear it, so it's better to refine ki. Su Poman turned a deaf ear to the words outside the formation, and followed the team of cultivators slowly. Originally, he could rush to the front effortlessly without using the, but in order not to attract attention, he chose to release the, pretending to be no different from an ordinary cultivator. Mortal warriors only have their internal energy to sustain them against pressure, and that energy depletes at an even faster rate. Without reaching Grandmaster level, reaching the 1,000th step is hopeless. Even at Grandmaster level, only those with exceptional internal cultivation could achieve the minimum requirement for sect membership by exerting all their might. The group of immortal cultivators advanced rapidly, and soon passed the 1,000th stone step. From there, the pressure around them suddenly intensified. The immortal formation exerted varying pressures on each trial taker, depending on their level of cultivation. 1,001st step. 1,002nd step. The group of immortal cultivators began to slow down, stretching out in a long line. Su Poman could feel his spiritual energy rapidly depleting. It felt as if a strange force within the formation was acting directly upon the flesh of each cultivator. Simultaneously, his consciousness, curled up within the Nuan Palace, felt a strange pressure, like a mortal facing a giant dragon. An inexplicable tremor rose from his heart, a feeling that directly affected his soul. What made him feel even more uneasy was that this pressure seemed to be getting worse as time went by. Brother Meng, there may only be one chapter today. I can't be perfect. This chapter was rushed out during lunch break and dinner time. I hope I can save some manuscripts this Saturday and Sunday without overtime. It's too difficult. Now I want to find a less busy job. If there are any big guys who can recommend one, that would be great. Chapter 94, each using their own means. No wonder after all these years, so few independent cultivators have successfully joined the Liang sect. It seems the problem lies with this immortal level formation. The longer it takes, the harder it will be to pass, Su Poman thought to himself, his pace gradually quickening. Above level 1,000, the independent cultivators all felt the pressure, their spiritual energy began to rapidly deplete, and their faces lost their previous relaxed expression. Su Poman slowly fell behind the first echelon. Although the pressure generated by the formation increased significantly, it was still child's play for his 4th level black iron body. However, as time went on, he felt the pressure on his spiritual consciousness increasing, so much so that a slight sense of drowsiness slowly appeared in his head. In contrast, the magic cultivators in front of him did not experience this problem. It was just that the pressure on their physical bodies made their steps difficult. The spiritual awareness of Dharma cultivators is stronger than that of physical cultivators, but their bodies are slightly weaker. The Liang sect truly has a good method. They test Dharma cultivators' bodies, and their spirits and souls. Su Poman wholeheartedly agreed with this approach. Because it's never the longest plank that determines the capacity of a wooden barrel, but the shortest, this kind of introductory test truly helps to identify the more talented independent cultivators. Initially, Su Poman worried that his spirit and soul would collapse first, but after basking in the sun for a while, The drowsiness was slowly dispelled by the warmth of his black iron body. The spiritual strength previously consumed by resisting the pressure of the formation was slowly being restored. I never expected that the black iron body's passive ability, which I had previously ignored, would not only allow me to go without food and water, but now it can actually restore my spirit and soul's strength through sunbathing. While the rate is a bit slow, I don't have to worry about not being able to hold on any longer. This discovery filled Su Poman with great excitement, and his concerns vanished. Under pressure, Su Poman walked steadily, maintaining an almost constant pace as he slowly approached the 5 people in the first echelon. The last one to fall behind was none other than Rongchuan. Brother Su, I didn't expect you to be a physical cultivator. That's quite rare in our circle of independent cultivators. But why did you want to join the Liang sect? It doesn't seem like the Liang sect has a lower house for physical cultivators. The 5-element sect seems to specialize in physical cultivation, while the Liang sect's strongest are magic and sword cultivators. Fortunately, you're only at the first level of key refining now, so you'll have time to transition to magic cultivation later. Rongchuan spoke with a full, energetic voice, seemingly unfazed by the pressure. Su Poman had never heard this term before, and curiously asked, "Lower house? What lower house?" As the group continued to climb, a purple-clad man in front glanced back at the two of them, his gaze quizzical, as if he was curious about why someone would be chatting and joking during such a crucial initiation trial. "Oh, Brother Su, let's go up first. We'll be at level 1500 soon, and the pressure there will be doubled. It's best to conserve your energy," Rongchuan replied quickly. Su Poman nodded, stepped forward, and walked alongside Rongchuan, following closely behind the purple-robed man. The leader, dressed in a dark yellow brocade robe, stood tall and proud, though their features were unseen. Behind him followed a man and a woman, seemingly siblings judging by their demeanor. Further back, another muscular man, radiating a golden aura, walked steadily, seemingly unfazed by the pressure, though a hint of anxiety flickered in his eyes. A few dozen others remained in the second echelon, separated from the first by 40 or 50 levels. Further back, the group was more dispersed, scattered along the stone steps, forming a third echelon of several hundred. Traditionally, only a dozen or 2 dozen people succeeded in each immortal level trial, with the rest eliminated midway. Despite this, every Liang sect opening ceremony was attended by numerous independent cultivators. This time, due to rumors that the immortal level trial had increased in difficulty, the number of independent cultivators was significantly smaller, only around 8 or 900. Step 1500. Strange spiritual patterns on the black stone slabs on either side flickered with the light, and the pressure fluctuated significantly with each step. As the 5 people in the first group passed the 1500th step, their pace suddenly slowed, closing in on the second group behind them. The leading man in yellow felt his thighs tremble, and each step seemed laborious. He was soon overtaken by the siblings behind him, falling into third place. The burly physical cultivator's eyes grew increasingly anxious, with a flicker of confusion periodically appearing in them. His pace quickened, and he slowly caught up to the man in yellow. The yellow-robed man, who had been leading the group, noticed the burly man hot on his heels. A trace of resentment crossed his face. He slapped the storage bag at his waist, pulled out a piece of green talisman paper, and slapped it against his thigh. His speed instantly increased, gradually catching up with a brother and sister ahead. "Brother, a cultivator only has one chance to use a talisman during the immortal trial. This person is being too aggressive to use it so early. I'm afraid it'll be even harder later," a pretty woman in a pink dress whispered, shaking her head. The black-robed young man beside him frowned but didn't respond, climbing silently. Su Poman also slowed down, gradually widening the gap between him and the first group. His performance was mediocre, and in the eyes of the elders in the stands, he wasn't particularly impressive. The higher they climbed, the greater the pressure. Many people grew pale, their bodies trembling, and sweat dripping down their skin. However, they gritted their teeth and climbed for better resources, hoping to join the Liang sect and find a better future. In the stands, 3 Foundation establishment elders chatted idly, occasionally glancing at the immortal stage formation before quickly looking away. They'd witnessed countless immortal stage trials, and now, unless a disciple was exceptionally outstanding, they wouldn't pay much attention. In the eyes of the Liang sect elders, only a handful of these casual cultivators and warriors could pass the trials, and even fewer could achieve foundation establishment. It often took several consecutive founding ceremonies for one or two disciples to finally succeed. Therefore, to them, the disciples within the formation held little importance. Time ticked by, and within the immortal stage formation, Su Poman tried to appear ordinary, mingling at the front of the second group, climbing the stone steps with considerable effort. Even his expression was appropriately ferocious, his leg muscles bulging as if he were exerting all his strength to resist the pressure. The burly physical cultivator, originally fourth in the first echelon, saw his anxiety turn into determination. He gritted his teeth and pulled a blood-red pill from his storage bag. With a look of pain on his face, he swallowed it. The next second, a pale golden aura erupted from him, and his climbing speed soared. He surpassed the siblings and the man in yellow one after another, and like a charging buffalo, he burst into level 1900. I just finished writing a chapter after get off work. I won't be eating tonight, so I'll just write. Chapter 95 Hurricane Talisman. Nai Rongchuan watched the unfolding events unfold in astonishment, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. What a grand gesture. Something like the blood-burning pill. Su Poman's ears twitched, catching the whisper. He glanced upward, and his supervision suddenly revealed a figure shrouded in golden light, rapidly climbing the stone steps like a four-legged wall-climbing lizard. This level of ki looks like it's increased 4 or 5 times more than before. What exactly does the blood-burning pill do? How could it allow him to unleash such power? Though curious, he was also happy to see someone draw attention, allowing him to better conceal himself. In the evening, countless people were eliminated from the immortal stage formation. The vast majority of warriors and independent cultivators were led out by disciples of the Liang sect, including the man in yellow. After the talisman's lasting effect wore off, the man in yellow climbed another 100 or so steps before collapsing under the pressure. His body twitching, he was carried out of the formation. The disciples of the Liang sect appeared remarkably relaxed as they entered and exited the immortal level formation. This was because they wore jade talismans that protected them from the formation's effects. They carried the eliminated cultivators and warriors one by one to seek medical attention. This arrangement didn't mean the Liang sect's leadership cared deeply about their safety. They were solely concerned with their own reputation. Therefore, their medical treatment was limited to casting spells to awaken and preserve lives, and they didn't worry about any other hidden injuries. After all, the Liang sect was a righteous immortal sect, and the news of someone dying during the trial would inevitably affect their reputation. Only a dozen or so remained within the immortal level formation. Only 2 of the mortal warriors had passed the trial, the others had already been eliminated. A sturdy physical cultivator was in first place, currently at level 1992. The finish line was not far away, but the confusion in his eyes grew more frequent, and the golden light radiating from his body had long since faded. He would have to rely on his own strength to advance the remaining distance. The pair of independent cultivators, brother and sister, were second, at level 1980. They had already used the talisman once, and the lingering effect had worn off. Therefore, each level climb required a long period of respite before continuing, their muscles cracking and creaking. Third was Nai Rongchuan. His green robe was drenched in sweat, the front clinging to his round belly, making him look rather comical. However, what caught everyone's attention was that he hadn't used a single talisman or elixir so far, demonstrating his immense strength. Su Poman was ninth. Although he felt no significant pressure, he still acted as if he was straining himself to climb a level. His expression was fierce, giving off a ferocious, demonic aura. Nai Rongchuan glanced back and saw Su Poman still persevering. A wave of admiration welled up in his heart. He had participated in numerous immortal trials to refine his cultivation to the point where he could withstand the pressure of the formation. He hadn't expected Su Poman, a newcomer participating in his first immortal trial, to achieve such a level of skill. It was truly remarkable. I guess I'll have to make good friends with my brother Su. He's a tough guy, the thought flashed through Nai Rongchuan's mind. He then patted his storage bag and pulled out a piece of shimmering green talisman paper. He whispered, "The talisman must naturally be used on the blade. That way, you'll have a greater chance of passing the trial." The talisman's aura is incredibly bright, clearly no ordinary item. In the stands, a sullen-faced old man took a sip of his drink and muttered, "These independent cultivators are quite interesting this time. One used the blood-burning pill, and the other actually used the low-grade, high-grade talisman. two lucky little ones, but luck is also a part of strength. Anyone who can pass the immortal trial within the rules can become a disciple of our sect, Elder Gia said with a half-smile, gently waving his purple fan. That's true. Opportunities are naturally created. There are many in the world of immortal cultivation with unparalleled luck. They can find treasures by kicking a rock, and inherit the legacy of ancient powers by jumping off a cliff. You can't compare. Nirongchuan used his spiritual power to activate the talisman paper, and it instantly erupted with a terrifying spiritual energy wave. He slapped his thigh hard. Snap! A misty green hurricane instantly gathered around him. The hurricane swirled around Nirongchuan's lower body, and he felt his body lighten, as if a strange force was supporting him, offsetting much of the pressure exerted by the immortal formation. Charge! Nirongchuan's once cheerful face took on a serious expression, his eyes filled with determination. With a single movement, he launched himself like a wild horse unbridled, his portly frame surging upward at a speed belying his size. He quickly cleared the mere distance of a few dozen levels. Although the pressure intensified the higher he climbed, the hurricane talisman he used was a low-grade, high-grade spiritual talisman, its power equivalent to that of a cultivator in the late key refining stage. With his strength, he could easily withstand the pressure of an immortal level formation equivalent to only the second level of key refining. A cyan hurricane swept past a pair of casual cultivators, sending the young man in black stumbling as he was about to ascend, nearly falling to the ground. Brother, are you okay? That man just now was truly despicable, relying on his spiritual talisman to act recklessly, the woman in the pink dress said sullenly. She was now supporting the young man in black, her face pale, her hair wet with sweat and wispy strands across her forehead. It's okay, little sister. I'll catch my breath for a moment. You can climb up first if you have the energy. Time's running out, the black-clad young man panted heavily, clearly stabilizing himself with considerable effort. Su Poman was also deeply surprised by Nirongchuan's actions. He had never expected the chubby boy he'd met in line to have such great potential. Before long, Nirongchuan had sprinted all the way to the finish line, successfully passing the immortal stage trial. He was then led to another location by disciples of the Liang sect. The sun gradually set, and the sky grew darker. Those who failed to reach the finish line before sunset would be considered to have failed the trial and would not be able to become a disciple of the Liang sect. As time passed, the atmosphere grew tense again. The sturdy man in the green robe, radiating a pale golden aura, had clearly reached his limit, though he only had 2 steps left. The finish line was within reach. Once these 2 short steps were taken, he would successfully become a disciple of the Liang sect. Failure to do so would render all his previous efforts useless, and the loss of ki and blood caused by the burning blood pill would be difficult to recoup. The muscles in his cheeks bulged, and he bit his tongue hard, dispelling the haze from his consciousness. Then, bracing himself, he bent his legs slightly, and his leg muscles suddenly erupted, bearing the immense pressure and thrusting forward. His entire body, like a carp leaping over a dragon's gate, leaped directly over 2 stone steps, finally landing heavily on the platform at the finish line. Haha, it's done, Quan Wang roared, his chest heaving violently, sometimes rising, sometimes sinking, his breathing erratic. His thighs, torn by the recoil from the previous outburst, were now bleeding profusely, but he paid no heed. He gazed up at the clouds on the horizon, stained crimson by the setting sun, a broad smile playing at the corners of his mouth. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96 Night Talk. Not long after, Quan Wang was carried away by 2 disciples of the Liang sect for treatment. Having passed the immortal stage trial, he officially became a disciple of the Liang sect. Therefore, this time, a specialized physician would perform a minor rejuvenation technique to heal his wounds, preventing any lingering injuries. The pair of independent cultivators behind him, brother and sister, fought tooth and nail, supporting each other as they reached the finish line. However, the woman in the pink dress wore a sullen expression, devoid of joy. She was clearly still harboring resentment for Nirongchuan's earlier gust of wind. Little sister, we're all fellow disciples now. Don't take it personally. We've successfully passed the test, haven't we? The young man in black, upon seeing his sister's expression, guessed her thoughts and, with a smile, slowly began to offer counsel. HMPH, the pink-dressed woman frowned, her lips pouting as she spoke with displeasure. Brother, you're always bullied because you're too nice. I've remembered this, and I'll definitely get revenge when I get the chance. The black-clad young man held his forehead, speechless. He was truly helpless against his younger sister's personality. The dozen or so people remaining on the stone steps, save for one who was eliminated, all reached the finish line. Su Poman, with immense difficulty, reached the 2000th step before nightfall, successfully becoming a full-fledged disciple of the Liang sect. As night fell, Su Poman and the others were accommodated in a large courtyard within the city lord's mansion. The compound was vast, with a stream running through it. A stone bridge flanked a pine and bamboo path, and scattered throughout were 5 or 6 stone pavilions. In the pavilion, Su Poman and Nai Rongchuan sat opposite each other, their stone table laden with food brought by the city lord's servants. Brother Su, I didn't expect you to pass the trial on your first try. You're truly a hidden talent, Nai Rongchuan said with a beaming smile, holding his glass. Su Poman waved his hand dismissively. I'm a physical cultivator, so naturally I have some advantages in the immortal level formation. Brother Nai is the truly hidden talent. He actually reached the finish line first. It seems the 60% chance I told you was a bit modest. Well, that was just luck. I happened to get a top-grade talisman. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had such a high confidence, Nai Rongchuan explained slowly, finishing his drink. A hint of pride flickered in his eyes. First place in the immortal level trial. This is a remarkable honor for any casual cultivator. Although Nai Rongchuan said nothing about it, his expression was full of triumph. The two chatted over their drinks. Brother Su, I see that you were practicing physical cultivation techniques before. I guess you will have to change your technique after joining the Liang sect. Have you decided on your choice now? Nai Rongchuan asked vaguely while gnawing on a chicken foot. Su Poman put down his chopsticks and asked curiously, I heard you mention before that there's no physical cultivation lineage in the lower house of the Liang sect. Nai Rongchuan nodded, spitting out the chicken bone from his mouth. After a moment of contemplation, he slowly said, currently, the lower house of the Liang sect only has the Dharma Monastery and the Sword Monastery. When I join the sect, I will choose to join the Dharma cultivation lineage. The Dharma Monastery contains a variety of powerful spells, is very inclusive, and is suitable for disciples with various cultivation attributes, and has an extremely high growth ceiling. The Liang sect's sword cultivation lineage is also very powerful. Its cultivation methods far surpass others in terms of the concentration of spiritual consciousness. The sword control technique is extremely powerful. The legendary Longyang sword refers to Wu Bailing, the grand elder of our sect's sword cultivation lineage. I'm told that in his youth, he once surpassed his level with the cultivation level of an early Jinden to slay a demonic demon in the middle Jinden stage, making him a well-known figure in the entire Nanayu Kingdom's cultivation world. However, I prefer a variety of magic spells and am not particularly interested in swordsmanship. As for the physical cultivation lineage, I heard that there is indeed a physical cultivation Taoist temple in the Shangdao Temple. However, those are disciples recruited by several elders who are good at physical cultivation during their travels, and they are used to pass on their physical cultivation methods. It is difficult for new disciples to directly join the physical cultivation lineage. Moreover, it seems that the inheritance of the physical cultivation lineage is incomplete. Those elders only practice physical exercises, so it is not considered the orthodox Liang sect. I see. Thank you Brother Nai for clearing up my confusion. Come, I'll toast you a glass. Su Poman raised his glass with gratitude and gestured to Nai Rongchuan, then drank it all in one gulp. Nai Rongchuan also raised his glass in a gesture, downing the contents in one gulp. Then, smacking his lips, he said, this isn't a secret at all. Just ask around in any market in East Saint Province and you'll find out. After tomorrow's spirit testing ceremony, we'll be able to ride a flying boat into the Liang sect. I've never ridden a flying boat before, and now I'm really looking forward to it. A flying boat? Is that a magical instrument? Yes, it seems Brother Su is truly a newcomer to the world of immortal cultivation. I'll tell you all about it. Nai Rongchuan recounted many stories from the world of immortal cultivation, many of which weren't recorded in the records of cultivation. Su Poman was also deeply interested, peppering him with questions. The two chatted until late at night before each retired to their rooms. The next day, as the sun rose, Su Poman left his room and stretched. The warm morning light bathed him, warming him to comfortable warmth. The power of his black iron body instantly activated, and the energy of the sunlight continuously strengthened his body. Su Poman walked through the jade-colored corridor, intending to find Rongchuan and join him in the spiritual testing ceremony in the square outside the city lord's mansion. Before he even reached Rongchuan's room, he heard an argument coming from that direction. "You shifty, fat bastard. Yesterday, my eldest brother nearly fell in the immortal stage formation. I'm here to settle the score with you. You're being unreasonable, little girl. This isn't your road, so I can leave if I want. The talisman is so powerful, what can I do? You did this all on purpose. I've seen plenty of people like you, don't be so slanderous, little girl. I'm a righteous man. How could I possibly have such thoughts?" The pink-dressed woman and the green-robed Rongchuan were arguing with each other like two fighting cocks. The young man in black, with a worried look on his face, was tugging at the pink-dressed woman, occasionally casting apologetic glances at Rongchuan. Su Poman couldn't help but feel a little amused when he saw this scene. Although these cultivators were powerful, they were probably not as shrewd as some mortals when it came to the ways of the world. "What's wrong with you guys? It's so early in the morning. Calm down," Su Poman shouted loudly from a distance. This shout instantly attracted the attention of many people. The two men stopped arguing and looked over at him. "So Brother Su is here?" Rongchuan's eyes widened, and his size immediately grew from mung beans to soybeans, with a surprised smile on his face. "Greetings, fellow Taoists. The spirit testing ceremony is about to begin. We can't keep the elders waiting. Let's go to the square in front of the temple first." Su Poman was not interested in the feud between the two and changed the subject directly. The woman in the pink skirt looked at Su Poman suspiciously, as if she was looking at another bad guy. Her eyebrows raised and she asked, "Are you two in the same group? Do you want to come and help him now?" Chapter 97 Spirit Testing Ceremony. "May I know what your name is, fellow Taoist?" "My name is Su Poman. There is no such thing as being in a group or not. We will all be fellow disciples from now on, and we are all new disciples. I heard that if new disciples are not united after joining the sect, they will be bullied by old disciples. I think it is best for everyone to be harmonious," Su Poman said slowly and sternly. As soon as these words came out, the brother of the girl in pink dress immediately showed an expression of great agreement on his face. He pulled the collar of the girl in pink dress and whispered, "This fellow Taoist Su is right. Since we are all from the same sect, we naturally have to help each other after we enter the sect. Only in this way can we gain a firm foothold in the sect." The girl in pink dress still had an unhappy look on her face. The young man in black pulled her behind him, walked forward with a smile, clasped his fists and saluted, saying, "I am Lu Man, and this is my own little sister Lu Ziner. She has been stubborn since she was a child, but she will never have any bad intentions, nor is she the kind of villain who plays tricks behind her back. She is just spoiled by my father. I hope the two fellow Taoists will forgive her." Haha, I think fellow Taoist Lu Ziner has a straightforward personality and is somewhat lovely. Fellow Taoist Nai is bold by nature, and he is not a narrow-minded person. He will definitely not take it to heart. Su Poman smiled and spoke to smooth things over. Upon hearing this, Lu Ziner's face flushed slightly, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. She said with a gentle smile, "Friend Su, you're a reasonable person. I, Lu Ziner, always keep my word. Since my big brother isn't hurt this time, I'll spare you, little fatty." "Hey, I'm not going to argue with a little girl. Come on, Brother Su, we should head to the square outside the palace," Rongchuan said, shaking his head, and then he started out of the courtyard. HMPH, Lu Ziner snorted softly, turning to Lu Man and saying, "Brother, let's go too." "Okay," Lu Man agreed immediately, and the two of them followed Su Poman and Rongchuan towards the square outside the palace. As they strolled through the city lord's mansion, they learned the direction of the square from a passerby and headed straight for it. A considerable number of people were already gathered in the square outside the hall, though they were still divided into three distinct areas. In the center stood the children of the Immortal Cultivation families, numbering around 50 or 60, most of them dressed in brocade robes. To their left stood another group of children, numbering approximately 3 to 4,000. However, these children had yet to undergo spiritual root aptitude testing, leaving them uncertain about their future and feeling somewhat uneasy. The others were a dozen or so independent cultivators who had passed the immortal level trials. At the front stood a sturdy man in a green robe. He resembled the body cultivator who had passed the trial yesterday with a blood-burning pill. His face looked pale, as if some old injuries had not yet healed. When Su Poman and the others arrived, many of them offered them kind smiles and slight nods as a gesture of greeting. The four of them stood at the back of the group, silently awaiting the start of the spiritual testing ceremony. Although the square was crowded, no one dared to make a loud noise. Especially the mortal children, who barely even whispered. They were like fawns in a strange forest, without their parents, and a bit shy. Time passed slowly, and more disciples of the Fiery Sun sect began to appear in the square. They placed two long stone pillars in the open space at the front of the square and hung something like a bronze mirror between them. The sun slowly shifted to its center, and three Foundation establishment elders leisurely emerged from the hall and took their seats at the top of the square. "Begin," the tall, thin elder in the middle called out. "Disciples, obey." A red-robed Fiery Sun sect disciple took the order and left. He waved to the other Fiery Sun sect cultivators, and the team immediately began to move. One by one, children from ordinary families began to file toward the stone pillar. The first was a little boy in gray cloth. Led by a cultivator from the Fiery Sun sect, he stood beneath the bronze mirror-like spirit test plate. A disciple from the Fiery Sun sect beside the pillar performed a simple incantation on the plate, and a milky white light suddenly emerged from it, slowly descending over the boy's head. After a long moment, the milky white light remained unchanged. A disciple standing nearby chanted, "No spiritual roots." Next, as soon as the words left his mouth, the boy's eyes misted, filled with resentment. He was led away by servants. Immediately, the next child to be tested stepped forward. "No spiritual roots." Next, "No spiritual roots." Next, dozens of children passed, yet not a single one emerged capable of cultivating immortality. This only made the contempt on the faces of the children from the Immortal Cultivation family nearby even more pronounced. A bunch of peasants wanting to learn how to cultivate immortality is truly wishful thinking. That's right, Brother Xiaoshen. The probability of a mortal family possessing spiritual roots is incredibly small. In my opinion, we shouldn't have any more mortal children participating in the founding ceremony. What a waste of time. Our family has over 1,000 people, but only a few dozen are capable of cultivating immortality. Among my peers, I'm the only one whose spiritual roots have been detected in recent years. While there are quite a few of them, I'd say 70 or 80 would be great. Haha, 70 or 80 is too many, right? I think 60 would be great. The children from the Immortal Cultivation families, confident of their aptitude for cultivation, felt no pressure to undergo the spiritual testing ritual. They chatted freely, occasionally letting out a slightly mocking chuckle. The testing proceeded at a rapid pace. After hundreds of people had passed, a single person with 4 spiritual roots emerged from the group of mortal children. The milky white light that fell upon the child's head manifested a strange phenomenon, emitting 4 colors: gold, blue, red, and yellow. This phenomenon made the child so ecstatic that he practically leaped for joy, his eyes filled with delight. The remaining children's eyes were filled with envy and jealousy, each yearning to possess the aptitude for cultivating immortality. Afterward, the frequency of those with spiritual roots increased slightly. These children came from Xiandu City. Their parents, having lived there for a long time, had their bloodlines enhanced by the city's spiritual energy, making them more likely to appear than those from other regions. Then, children with 4 spiritual roots began to emerge like mushrooms after rain. By the end of the test, the group of approximately 4,000 people had 89 4 spiritual root holders, plus a little girl with 3 spiritual roots and a little boy with no spiritual roots. Chapter 98: The Appearance of a Spirit. The next to undergo the spiritual tests were the 56 children from the Immortal Cultivation families. Many of them had already undergone aptitude testing within their clans, and now they were simply going through the formalities of having their aptitudes recorded by the sect. Because there were only a few of them, the tests were completed quickly. Of the 56 children from these Immortal Cultivation families, 52 possessed 4 spiritual roots, and 4 possessed 3. The probability of a 3-root prodigy appearing was significantly higher than among children from mortal families. After these family members finished their tests, it was the turn of a dozen or so independent cultivators and the 2 mortal warriors. Quan Wang, the body cultivator, was the first to step forward. 4 spiritual roots. Next, 4 spiritual roots. Next, almost all the independent cultivators possessed 4 spiritual roots, with no exceptions. Soon, Nai Rongchuan's turn arrived. Behind him, Su Poman carefully examined the spiritual testing disc between two stone pillars, his heart beating with anxiety. The patterns on the Liang sect's soul testing disc certainly don't look as complex as the one Liu Baoer retrieved from the ancient cultivator's tomb. It shouldn't be able to detect my pseudo-chaos spiritual roots, 4 spiritual roots. Next, Nirongchuan finished testing his aptitude, and it was Su Poman's turn. At the red-robed cultivator's signal, he stood between two stone pillars, closed his eyes, and waited. Not long after, his eyes lit up, and he opened them to look upwards. 5 colors emerged from the milky white light, a phenomenon that caused everyone present to exclaim in surprise. Another useless spiritual root. How strange. 2 useless spiritual roots appeared at this spiritual testing ceremony. Who is this person? Joining the Liang sect with such poor qualifications is a complete waste of resources. It's probably difficult for someone with useless spiritual roots to reach the great perfection of the key refining stage, let alone the foundation establishment stage. That child was fine before, but I didn't expect another cultivator with useless spiritual roots to appear. He really should have given up cultivating immortality and lived a life of wealth and glory in the mortal world. Discussions raged in the room. Nirongchuan, with a hint of pity in his eyes, cast a comforting glance at Su Poman, but his eyes were too small for most to discern. Lu Xiner shook her head slightly, a hint of pity in her eyes. She sighed, "Fellow Taoist Su is a good person. I didn't expect his cultivation aptitude to be so poor. To reach the first perfection of the key refining stage as a casual cultivator, I'm sure he must have endured a lot of hardships." Su Poman felt relieved at this moment and quickly retreated from the area where the spiritual testing disc was located and came to Nirongchuan's side. "Brother Su, you..." Nirongchuan was about to offer a word of comfort when Su Poman interrupted him. He remained calm and whispered, "Brother Nai, there's no need to comfort me. I already knew my own aptitude. Today merely confirmed it. It's alright, it won't affect my resolve to pursue the Dao. Since Suleiman was able to overcome his tribulations and attain immortality, even if my talent is slightly inferior, as long as my resolve towards the Dao is unwavering, I will eventually achieve my foundation." How naive! Near the main hall in the square, Shan Yanqiu took a sip of his drink and sighed, shaking his head. Suleiman must have had such incredible luck to finally overcome his tribulations and attain immortality. How dare a mere kid with useless spiritual roots compare himself to Suleiman? How presumptuous! The tall, thin elder sitting nearby nodded, clearly agreeing. In a few years, when everyone else has reached the late key refining stage, he'll undoubtedly be unable to endure. Those with useless spiritual roots cultivate at an incredibly slow pace, Elder Jia said flatly. Indeed, the Liang sect has had many disciples with useless spiritual roots throughout its history. None of them ultimately succeeded in building their foundations, and all of them descended early to enjoy the wealth and luxury of the mortal world. Su Poman sparked much discussion, but at this moment, he remained remarkably calm, unconcerned. The world of immortal cultivation was treacherous and ever-changing, and for him, being able to conceal the uniqueness of his aptitude and constitution was a blessing. Otherwise, if his pseudo-chaotic spiritual roots were exposed, even the Liang sect's leader would be unable to protect him. He quietly walked into the crowd, waiting for the several casual cultivators behind him to complete their tests. Then, 2 mortal warriors, dressed in formal attire, approached from beneath a spiritual testing formation. The first was a bald, 60-year-old man with long eyebrows, whose internal energy had reached the consummation of a grandmaster. Behind him was a middle-aged man with incredibly long arms. He had short hair and a savage, fierce gaze, like a forest beast. The bald old man was the first to step forward, a milky white light descending upon his bald, even slightly glistening head. For a long moment, the milky white light remained unchanged. No spiritual roots. Next, Alice, fate cannot be defied, the bald old man sighed, dejected as he walked out of the spirit testing formation. His face darkened, and he seemed to have aged considerably. His hunched figure gave him a hint of decadence. The short-haired man, observing this, couldn't help but feel a pang of grief. He took a deep breath and walked into the area covered by the spirit testing disc. The disc activated again, and a milky white light descended. The short-haired man closed his eyes, involuntarily holding his breath, not daring to check the result. Golden and red shadows began to appear on the milky white light, and then 2 black stone pillars suddenly erupted with a dazzling light. Strange patterns lit up, gradually forming the image of a golden, red-eyed giant ape. Wow! The entire audience erupted in excitement. What's that? A person with dual spiritual roots has appeared. This is incredible, a special spiritual body. Didn't you see the changes in the black Zuandeo pillar of the spirit detection array? It must be someone with this physique. Why has this person remained unknown until now? Even the sect master and the supreme elders would be eager to snatch such a talent. This person is truly blessed. Not only does he have extraordinary aptitude for cultivation, but he also possesses a special spiritual body that only appears once in 1,000 years. He will definitely become a core member of our Liang sect. Who knows, he'll grow into true prodigy, sent to the upper sect. Good fortune and bad fortune go hand in hand. I hope this news doesn't leak out, otherwise many demonic beings will surely be tempted by this physique. The crowd was buzzing with discussion. On the podium, the three elders, who had been as calm as a rock, now changed color. The tall, thin old man flashed to the front of the spirit detection array, grabbed the short-haired man, and led him into the hall. Immediately afterwards, an old and steady voice rang out from the main hall. Elder Shan, Elder Jia, and all disciples, listen up. Seal the city lord's mansion immediately. Aside from the mortal boys we sent away earlier, bring everyone in the city lord's mansion back to the Liang sect. No one should be left out. Everyone who returns to the sect today must swear by the heavenly Dao not to disclose any information about the special spirit. Act now. Anyone who disobeys will be killed on the spot, as ordered by senior brother. Disciple obeys. Chapter 99. Entering the sect. A fine, drizzling rain fell from the sky. The square in front of the city lord's mansion was dotted with figures. A massive, dark silver flying boat hovered in a sky shrouded in thunder and lightning. Boom. After a fierce roar of thunder, the rain intensified. The mortal children, whose spiritual roots had just been discovered, gazed up at the flying boat in the sky. Raindrops fell from the dim sky, soaking their hair and clothes, but it failed to divert their curious gaze. Unaware of what had just happened, they saw only a group of red figures moving about in the rain, relaying orders. Meanwhile, a spiritual light shot up from the direction of the main hall, and soon a massive silver boat soared from the mountains. Su Poman followed the others, stepping from the high platform in the main hall square onto the flying boat. The sounds of rain and thunder faded instantly, and he seemed to have entered a world of profound tranquility. The silver flying boat, over 10 feet long, looked like a mighty fish. The forward deck was packed with newly boarded disciples. This boat must be engraved with a soundproof information. Brother Su, the boat will soon take us to the Liang sect. This is my first time riding one of these. I wonder if the brothers will let us move around freely while we're up. Nirongchuan looked around excitedly, his eyes sweeping over every inch of the forward deck, occasionally standing on tiptoe to peer outside. Outside the formation, raindrops fell rapidly on the ground like beads from a broken string, creating tiny splashes on the ground. Su Poman didn't respond, but instead worried about the dangers of traveling on the flying boat during a thunderstorm. As he pondered this, the boat began to emit a low humming sound, and everyone felt a sharp sense of weightlessness before the boat soared into the sky. Wow, it's flying! Many new disciples, who had never ridden a flying boat before, couldn't help but let out a few exclamations of surprise, then covered their mouths under the slightly stern gazes of the red-robed brothers. Thunderclouds still hung heavy in the sky, but the formation engraved on the flying boat seemed to have a lightning-proof effect. Whenever lightning struck, a purple light would illuminate the formation, redirecting the lightning elsewhere. Soon, the flying boat escaped the thunderclouds and entered the cloud above space. 10-dimensional thunderbolts raced through the dark clouds, while above, the sun shone warmly, and colorful clouds drifted, as if it were two different worlds. The beauty of this place captivated many, but since they couldn't speak loudly, they could only whisper to those around them. The flying boat soared for less than an hour before jolting and diving down. Everyone once again experienced the strange feeling of weightlessness. Passing through the thick cloud layer, the rain continued to fall below, but the intensity had subsided. The mountains rose through the mist, appearing hazy. After the flying boat effortlessly broke through a vast expanse of white fog, the Liang sect's main gate appeared before everyone. The most striking feature was the statue of the blazing sun atop the gate. Sculpted from fiery red rock, its rising flames emanated an inexplicable luminosity, evaporating the raindrops that fell nearby. Beyond the gate was a long, emerald staircase that stretched through a forest of sacred bamboo, with pavilions and towers scattered throughout the paths. The flying boat landed in the square beneath the statue, and everyone disembarked, guided by the cold-faced senior brother. Standing in the square, everyone realized the sheer grandeur of the Liang sect's main gate. Within the vast square, their figures occupied only a tiny sliver of space, like ants beneath the towering statue of the blazing sun. A thin young man with an upright figure and handsome features walked in front of the crowd. He cleared his throat, attracting everyone's attention, and then slowly said, "My fellow disciples, I am Pan Shuang. You can call me Brother Pan. I will now be in charge of your initiation into the sect. For those of you with fire spiritual roots, the entry-level cultivation method is the Scorching Sun technique. This technique is considered to be the most suitable for cultivation in the key refining stage of our sect. Whether you choose magic cultivation or sword cultivation, it is the foundation. The mana cultivated is more profound than other key refining techniques in the Nanayu kingdom. At the same time, it also has the characteristics of burning and fire poison, but it is moderate and peaceful, and it is not easy to go astray. As for disciples without fire spiritual roots, you can go to the 5 elements building to select a key refining technique with other attributes. Also, we'll return to the internal affairs building later to collect the sect's distributed items. Everyone will receive the same items: a low-level storage bag containing 5 low-grade spirit stones, 3 Devouring pills, a low-grade magic sword, and an identity token. In the Liang sect, all disciples below the 6th level of the key refining stage reside in the lower Dao courtyard, which is further divided into the Dharma Monastery and the Sword Monastery. If you're interested in alchemy and have a talent for herbs, you can sign up as an alchemy apprentice at the Dan Tower. Those with a talent for talisman making can sign up at the 6 Talismans building. Pan Shuang spoke slowly and deeply, detailing some of the sect's rules and arrangements. Su Poman listened intently, silently sorting out some of the details in his mind. A rough outline of the entire Liang sect gradually formed in his mind. The Liang sect did not impose much control on its disciples. Here, all training and daily life were self-sufficient. Only those with greater talent were selected by the elders in the foundation establishment stage and accepted as personal disciples, provided with various training resources free of charge. The Liang sect holds an annual small academy competition and a triennial sect competition. All winners receive various elixirs and treasures as rewards, employing an incentive-based training method. Time ticked by, and Pan Shuang, feeling she had nearly finished her explanation, beckoned everyone, "Follow me. Let's go and receive the techniques." Following Pan Shuang, the group passed through the massive mountain gate, walked down a flight of science stone steps, and then continued along another bamboo forest path. After a while, they finally reached a black, 3-story tower. Atop the tower was a massive, broad-bladed, crimson sword, several feet long. The entire tower was shrouded in a fiery red sheen. Pan Shuang turned around, asked everyone to stop, and whispered, "This is the Black Flame Tower where our Liang sect keeps its collection of techniques and spells. It's guarded year-round by a Grand Elder in the Jinden stage and 2 elders in the Foundation establishment stage. This is a confidential place for our Liang sect. You can just wait outside. Don't make any noise. I'll go in and get the technique jade slips for you." Chapter 100, Bigu Pill. As Pan Shuang spoke, he pulled a crimson token from his storage bag. He raised his hand and gently touched the light barrier. The formation instantly melted, creating a hole wide enough for one person to pass through. He stepped in without hesitation. About an incense stick later, Pan Shuang with a respectful expression exited the Black Flame Tower. After a brief bow, he walked over to the crowd and began distributing the jade slips containing the cultivation techniques from his storage bag. Every new disciple present who possessed a fire spiritual root received a light crimson jade slip. Those without received a token engraved with the words 5 elements. Pan Shuang led everyone away from the area near the Black Flame Tower and returned to the long blue stone steps. He slowly said, "The 5 elements tower is right behind the Black Flame Tower. Junior brothers who don't have fire spiritual roots can use the 5 elements orders in their hands to exchange for a cultivation method with other attributes. Come with me, I will take you to the residence near the lower Taoist temple first." Everyone walked along the blue stone steps in another direction for a long time. At this time, the children's faces were full of confusion. They were already confused by the tortuous route. The 2 buildings up ahead are the Wenwen Hall and the Wugu Hall. New, underage disciples must spend 2 hours daily learning to read and write in the Ziwen Hall. The Wugu Hall is where the disciples from the lower Taoist Academy eat. As Pan Shuang introduced them, the group saw the 2 massive structures. The Ziwen Hall resembled a manor, surrounded by a low wall. Through the wall, one could see a series of bamboo buildings connected by long corridors. From a distance, the Wugu Hall resembled a vast pavilion, its dome supported by 8 pillars. From the outside, one could see the tables and chairs inside, as well as the Liang sect disciples dining. A faint aroma wafted from the Wugu Hall, predominantly the scent of meat, causing many of the younger disciples to gulp. Don't worry. The food at the Wugu Hall is unlimited, but I advise you to eat sparingly. The most crucial step in building your foundation is cleansing your tendons and marrow. Excessive impurities in the body will hinder the effectiveness of your foundation, because although the food provided in the Wugudang is delicious, it is not spiritual material monster meat. Although most of it is exotic beast meat, it contains impurities. You can use your monthly salary to buy 2 pills, 1 low-grade spirit stone for each, and 1 pill can last about 10 days. When your cultivation level is improved in the future, you can complete tasks to earn sect contribution points to exchange for marrow cleansing pills. Only by eliminating all the impurities in your body can the success rate of foundation building be maximized, Pan Fen said patiently in the tone of an experienced person. Then he looked at Su Poman and other older casual cultivators and continued in a deep voice, "You are different from these 5 or 6-year-old children. They have been eating grains for a short time, but some of you have been eating those impurity-containing foods for 10 or 20 years. The impurities in your body have spread all over your body. So you must take 2 pills from now on and find time to complete tasks to exchange for marrow cleansing pills. Otherwise, the possibility of building a foundation in the future will become lower and lower as you age." Pan Shuang's words plunged many casual cultivators into deep thought. Although they had heard of Bigu pills in the market, they hadn't expected that impurities in the body could have such a profound impact on their foundation building efforts. This made them all frown. Su Poman, however, was greatly surprised. Recalling the passive of his black iron body, he suddenly felt a surge of joy. My black iron body's passive is quite good. It can replenish all physiological needs through sun exposure. 1 Bigu pill costs 1 low-grade spirit stone. So, if I calculate this, I'll save a lot of spirit stones on the Bigu pill alone, Su Poman thought to himself, feeling a strange feeling in his heart, as if everyone else was just an ordinary player, while he had become a VIP player. He felt a little elated. Your residence is just ahead. You can choose any unmarked stone house at the foot of this mountain. There's a mechanism inside. A simple push will seal the stone door. The domes of these stone houses also have mechanisms. You can study them yourself after you enter. They're very simple. Each stone house also has a formation stone tablet. Once you've chosen your residence, you can carry it with you as a key to your room. Go ahead, pick your room, and then meet here. We need to pick up some things from the Internal Affairs building." As soon as Pan Shuang finished speaking, several wandering cultivators responded and set off to grab the better positioned stone houses. "Let's go, Brother Su. If we don't go now, they'll take all the good spots," Nirongchuan shouted, joining the room snatching. The group of children were left alone, slowly moving in confusion towards the area of stone houses. While children in this world matured more precociously, they were still children, and their adaptability was ultimately inferior to that of these wandering cultivators. They stared around in bewilderment, completely unsure of what to do next. In contrast, the young men from the Immortal Cultivation families were noticeably more mature. They seemed to have long since formed small groups, each led by a leader, occupying stone houses in droves, gathering their friends together for warmth. Su Poman carefully scanned the remaining stone houses and chose a secluded, farthest spot. He slowly made his way through the chaotic crowd, stopping at the farthest point. The stone house before him stood about 5 meters tall, its interior space perhaps 30 square meters at most. As he approached, he saw only half of the roof remaining, the other section completely bare, as if it had never existed. Entering the room, Su Poman scanned the surroundings, finding nothing but a stone bed and a stone table and chairs. The surrounding walls were bare, constructed entirely of the same stone. The floor was overgrown with weeds, and pieces of rubble lay scattered haphazardly. It looked as if the room had been uninhabited for a long time. Su Poman noticed 2 levers on the wall. He walked over and gently pushed one upwards, and suddenly the entire stone house erupted in a low rumbling sound. Then, the previously empty half of the roof was covered by a thick black stone, plunging the room into a dim state, with only light coming through the doorway. Su Poman then pulled the lever downward, and the stone house roared again. The stone dome slowly shifted to the roof at the rear. I see. Su Poman placed his palm on the other lever and gently pushed it. Boom. A heavy stone door crashed down from the doorway, completely blocking the entire opening. This speed is enough to crush a mortal to death. Su Poman was secretly shocked. Then he pulled the lever down, and the stone door slowly rose. The vibration sound slowly disappeared until the door was wide open. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.